What up?
Nothing. What up with you?
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Clearly.
Let's just roll with that. How is
right,
everyone on this Monday morning?
But what day is it?
Monday.
Monday. Wait.
What?
First Monday after being a father of 3.
Yes.
Seriously, how's it feel?
I think I'm trying to prepare myself for it to be more overwhelming than it is.
Yeah, that's because you're not going to be home with them.
Well,
so,
yes
all right.
and no.
So, anyway, everyone, Nick and his wife, Meg, brought a baby girl. New baby girl, right? What's her name?
Indy. Yeah.
Middle name?
Owen.
Last
Jones.
name? Schiffer.
Yes.
When do you have her? This weekend?
Sunday night, yeah.
And everyone's home, good, healthy.
Everyone's home, healthy, happy, sleeping. Knock on wood.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
Sleeping is the most important part. Was she big?
9.6.
That's decent size, girl.
Yeah.
That's our medium one. Reed was like 10.2.
Yeah, dude, that's
10.1.
silly. That's
It's
silly.
like turkey.
Yeah.
Like, but she's so, like, it's funny because, like, she's so little. And, like, I pick up Reed thinking Reed's like a baby. And I'm like, you're a toddler now. What do you, like, what? You don't need a binky.
That's
My
the
wife's
craziest
like, he's
part.
2.
Yeah, when you
I'm
bring
like-
home a baby and you're like the older one at that point, you're like, oh my God, you just got really big all of a sudden.
It's like,
What
and your
happened?
diapers just got way worse now that there's a baby that has a diaper. It's like, you should be on the
Yeah,
toilet.
that's human poop coming out of you.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Well, with all of that aside, I appreciate the support, and I'm happy to have made it on the podcast this week. And we have Keith Johnson from Keith Johnson Woodwork. He recently lost his job, was laid off, and chose to get into his hobby, which was woodworking full-time, but also become a content creator. So for those who are interested in content creation, what that means and how you can potentially make a living around it, I think this episode would be for you.
Yeah, you guys should listen because Nick asks specific questions that I could tell he's trying to get the answers to.
Oh, I have so many
as far
notes.
as YouTube and everything else. I'm like, Nick is not just asking this question for the
the general
audience
public,
right now.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like he definitely has intent.
That was good. I think Keith is this generation's New Yankee Workshop.
Yeah. I was looking for it. I have a book that I'm reading, and I forget what it's called. But in the book, the author talks about starting a podcast. And the whole reason he started a podcast was to get guests on the podcast that were better at something that he was, strictly to learn from them. I'm like,
Smart.
that's genius. So, yeah, I may have taken a few notes today.
Good stuff.
Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. Duration manufactures 100% of their product for Boral True Exterior trim. True Exterior is the brand name given to Boral's poly ash material, a blend of polymers and 70% fly ash, a waste byproduct from coal production. The result is a remarkable building material. Think of it as having all of the best attributes of wood, PVC, cement siding, fiber cement and engineered wood products, but without any of the downside of those products. Now you have access to a product that installs easily, remains stable, is unaffected by moisture and temperature, and is indistinguishable from real wood. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.
.com.
Well, Keith, thanks for joining us tonight. For those that don't know who you are, and I know you're pretty big on Instagram, give a little introduction.
Oh boy. Yeah, Instagram KJ Sawdust, and as of January 1st, basically, I'm now full-time furniture maker and content creator. Started my own business. I got laid off from my day job back in October after, 20-something years of working in printing and packaging. So I've just been trying the last few months to kind of get myself together here. It was expected but unexpected at the same time. They kind of gave us some notice that, we're going to lay you off, but it's still it's not real until it actually happens.
Sure.
So, there was a little bit of severance there, so a little bit of breathing room. But in the midst of all that, I mean, you guys know, creating your own business, establishing my LLC, registering with the government, the state, working with my accountant, trying to figure out, making sure I have even at the bank now, just to set up a business bank account, it was like an interrogation because of all the fraud and everything. It was 2 hours at the bank just to set up a few bank accounts. And so now it's, being on my own, it's definitely scary. I mean, you guys, I'm nowhere at the level that you guys are at. But luckily for me, like, I don't want to just build furniture for a living, one piece in, another piece in, out. That's not my goal. The content creation part of it, I plan on that being like half of my business. I have a good backing on YouTube now. Recently hit 100,000 subscribers there. So I'm making money on YouTube ads. I have sponsors lined up for videos, and even the podcast that I'm on, the Shop Sounds podcast, we have a sponsor over there. So multiple sources of income. I don't want it to just be furniture. I just don't. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I'm not sure. I think you guys are younger than that. So I'm a little beat up, believe it or not, even after working kind of an office forever. I'm just the grind in and out of the shop every day, moving heavy tables and lumber and milling lumber, and it's, I got a bad elbow, I got a bad neck, my back hurts. It's too much. But if I can balance that with editing and building, more so kind of the editing side maybe, I think I'm going to be okay, I hope. I don't know.
I want to unravel all of that. But going back to being laid off from a job that you were at 20 years, you said it was kind of expected. And it sounds like you were alluding to the fact that they pulled you aside and said, hey, there's going to be a layoff, and it wasn't real until it was real. But what about before that? Before they had the conversation, being in that particular industry and seeing, while simultaneously doing what you were doing on Instagram and YouTube, I would only assume that there was probably some, even if it was subconscious, some mental preparation for the division between that industry.
Right. So the industry I was in is printing and packaging, and where I was the last 5 or 6 years is cosmetic packaging, where they do a lot of sampling. So when you open up a magazine and there's a scent in there on a sheet, or in stores where they're giving out little samples.
It was your fault when I opened something up and it was like this awful smell.
That's it. Yeah, the 6 different awful smells. Yeah. The cornucopia, the potpourri of awfulness. It's just like every one of those to me just smells like an old lady. It's like it doesn't matter which one. They all kind of blend together. So as of the last like 2 to 3 years, we saw business starting to decline. Number one, because magazines were going away. So that was a huge sector of the business. And then sampling just started to decline. And then once COVID hit, people weren't going into stores. People, weren't spending that disposable income as much on high-end cosmetics and high-end perfumes. So the business just went down and down. And not to mention that cosmetic printing, where you have women's faces and makeup, like the color and the quality needs to be perfect. Like these customers are over the top, that everything has to be, I mean, you're not going to buy makeup where the woman looks beet red on her face or looks like she has jaundice. Like, so every skin tone has to be perfect. And when you're printing on a press versus looking at a digital screen, it's a whole nother world. So we battled that for a long time. And when they actually took the printing part of my business from New Jersey and moved it to Maryland, the people down there just weren't as skilled. So we were getting a lot of rejections, and we weren't making money. Like it would take you 5 or 6 additional jobs to make up for the money that you just lost on the one that got rejected. So financially, it just wasn't working for them, that sector of the business. So we could all see it kind of dwindling, and they laid a bunch of people off. And then I was like in the last 5 or 6 people or whatever. And then 3 months before like the end, they're like, yeah, we're probably going to shut down and just close this whole thing. It's just too much for us. It becomes a liability when you're losing that much money and taking on that much risk. Because if you just like in a house, like if we're spending all this money on material, paper is not cheap. And a lot of these things are done on Mylar, which is like a foil coated material. So that's like $1 a sheet when you print on that. So if you print on something, spend all that, you die cut it, you fold it and glue it, put all those man hours and labor into it, and then someone just says, oh, this color's no good. You got to do them over. So everything in the trash, literally. You have to buy all new material. So you do that all over again. It just became too much. So, but while I was getting back to your other question, while I was doing this work, every weekend I was in the shop, building furniture, whether it was for a client or for myself. And that's when I kind of started on Instagram, which I actually had to look back because I couldn't remember my last Instagram post, which was 2016.
Your first, you mean?
Yeah. As far as woodworking.
Okay. Is that when you started woodworking and Instagram at the same time?
No, I've been woodworking since 8th grade. So
okay.
I don't even, and then kind of through college, I worked for some. I mean, we can get into that too. So as I was working the day job, building furniture, started editing and posting content and making a little money here and there, like Woodpeckers Tools. I work with them. They'll send me one of their new one-time tools. I'll create a video for it, and they pay me. And so I have a couple other companies that I've done that for, which is different because like when I just post a video, I'm like, hopefully it does well, but it's not a big deal. But when you're doing something for a sponsor, like you want that video to kill. You want to get 100,000, 200,000 views so that they're getting their money's worth and they're getting value in the money they're spending.
Do you think that's critical to them, or do you think you put more effort into that, to like from the numbers standpoint?
Yeah, I put way more pressure on myself. Like to me, like if it doesn't get 100,000 views, it's a failure. I mean,
right.
It took me a long time to get to that point.
But to them, it's like, hey, that's an awesome video. Thanks so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And sometimes it does, when you look at Instagram and you look at someone with a lot of followers, I could sell just as many products as someone with 10,000 followers. It all depends how loyal your following is. Mm-hmm. Like I have 200 and something thousand, but I'll bet you 150,000 of those are overseas people or people who don't interact and who would never buy anything that I would promote or anything like that. So
don't say that. You might have sponsors listening.
Dang
Potentials.
Can we edit that real quick?
Nope.
Man, you just said that you lost your job. You're going out on your own. Now you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I know. But there's 50,000 people left that still could buy something from that. That's 200. True.
All it takes is one.
I forget his name. Kevin. Well, he's like, all you need is 1,000 true fans. Mm-hmm. 100,000 people that follow you but don't interact and don't buy anything that you promote. But if you have that 1,000 people that truly stand behind you and buy what you promote and give to you, whether it be on Patreon or something, another format like that. Do you guys have a Patreon account for this podcast?
We do not.
We do not.
It's been brought up to us a handful of times, but we have not investigated it.
You have one?
We do on our podcast, and we're blown away by the support that we have, considering how small we are. And, we haven't been. I think we have 18 episodes. So, but we owe that all to Instagram, because no one would really find out about our podcast if we weren't promoting it in our stories or people on Instagram telling their friends on Instagram. So Patreon is definitely a source of revenue. I'm actually going to be looking into that for my YouTube channel as well. It's just coming up with tiers for people. Like if you give this much money, you have to give incentive to people, I think, who want to give money. Some people just want to give you to just support you because they love watching your videos, but mm-hmm. you want to give them value too.
So to speak to like a woodpeckers thing,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to use the word influencer because I feel like that's kind of generalizing what that marketing is, but how do you balance that doing a tool review with what you believe in doing a good video for them? Because I feel this industry is completely bombarded by influencer free tools.
Yeah.
Everyone wants free tools, and it's become this thing where it's become. I believe, and I think we would all agree, is that it's devaluing. And I get it. It's in no disrespect to Milwaukee, and I think Milwaukee does a great job at this, is that they basically flood the market with free stuff. It's like everyone gets a free light.
There was a point in time where I was scrolling my feed and I was like, enough already.
Right.
Enough already. I'm deleting anyone else that shows me the same thing.
And I get it because they're like, hey, if we just take all our ad money and dump it and everyone gets a free tool, then everyone sees it and it works. Mm-hmm. But, if you flip it and look at like someone like Festool, where it's like they're more refrained from giving it, restrained from giving free tool because they want to feel exclusive and they want people to feel value and they don't want to ever lose that. And I think it's a fine line, but it's also the same thing with the influencer side of it. It's like, working with a brand, it's great. Like you're talking about multiple streams of income, and I want to unfold that, especially for other people that are listening and in this industry, or possibly thinking about leaving their job and starting something. And it's a very real opportunity to make Johnny's Milwaukee
John's
light.
got his Milwaukee light lighting up his room.
Don't ever show me that light again. So what, I guess, unpackage that a little bit. What does that look like for you, and why did you choose to, why'd you choose to do it?
So Woodpecker's tools, I've actually been using them. I've been buying them for 12 or 13 years. So everybody who comes on Instagram thinks like in the last 2 years is where history started with everything. Mm-hmm. So after years and years of buying their tools, and then they showed up on Instagram and into social media, I sent them a DM. I said, hey, I've been using your tools for a long time. I'd love to do something with you guys, some kind of video or content, anything. Because I just built like this giant woodpecker wall to display all my tools. And I didn't hear anything back. So I waited like a month or two, and I pinged them again, and I got a response saying, hey, so sorry I haven't got back to you. We're just kind of getting our social media going, but we would definitely like to do something. It's like, great. And then I didn't hear anything again. And I forget how we actually did get, I think I ran into one of the guys at a woodworking show because I always have a booth there. And we finally struck up the conversation, and so I said, why don't I just create a video? Because at that time I was starting to create all these little videos of my projects, these little in-process shots. So I said, we'll do a little video with one of your tools. So they sent me one. I did it. It did really well. They liked it, and I did a few more, and they paid me for each one. Obviously, get to keep the tool, and we just developed a really good relationship. I was able to go out to the plant a couple times and tour and meet the owner, and they actually kind of offered me a job to come out to Cleveland to work. I just wasn't ready to leave.
You should go sign that contract now.
I know.
Dig it up and be like, hey, is this still valid?
Hey, remember that? They actually just hired someone recently for their content creation, so that's gone by the wayside. But as things developed, it just became like I was the woodpecker guy. Like people, and there's a lot of woodpeckers is very polarizing because the old school guys hate it because it's aluminum, it's not made of steel, and they're too expensive. They just look pretty. They don't. But to me, they've always worked. They're guaranteed for life to be square. If it's not square, you send it back. They'll send you another one. They stand by their tool. The owner is like, he's such a great. He really invested in that business, and he believes in everything they make. They're not. He's not just pumping out stuff and selling it, and then not responding or backing his product. So I love the ownership there. I've even written an article for their magazine. The people there are, it's hard when they're constantly investing in their machinery, buying CNC so they can produce more tools and offer different things. They have like 4 or 5 engineers just constantly coming up with new tools. So it's a business that continues to grow, and I'm happy to be a part of that, as little as it is. But my problem is I haven't been creating much content on Instagram lately because aside from like sponsored posts, it just doesn't make me any money. So YouTube is has been where my focus is, because that is making me money on views over there and AdSense. It's been pretty good for me. So I need to kind of figure out, like, where do I want to spend my time? On Instagram, just to post a quick video for people to watch, or over on YouTube, more full-length videos where I make AdSense money. I can get sponsors, full sponsors over there. You can sell plans. You can have all these other things. But I mean, who knows? YouTube could be gone at the end of the year. I don't know. It's tough.
I'm gonna go with no. It's like saying Amazon's gonna leave.
Amazon's gonna be out?
Yeah, that's like saying the same thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Keith,
Right. I mean,
how did you figure out, like, you know what I do? I take the free tool, do a video or show it in a post, and I never ask for money.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you figure out where the value was for you in the views? Like, I see the value with people learning and answering questions, but to put a dollar value on it, where did you come up with that?
I put it in my time. So to edit to film a video of a tool and edit it and have it ready, whatever, if it comes down to 60, I mean, they used to only want 15-second videos, but to get that tool to look
Remember
at
that?
it, to figure out.
You're dating yourself now, man.
I know. Now you can go 60 seconds, no problem.
That
People
was like
love it.
heaven when it went to 60 seconds. You're like, I can do anything. I can literally film anything.
A few people were like, I can't do a minute. Oh, yeah, you had to be invited to that. Like, this is the beta test.
So it was, all right, how long does it take me? Because when I get the tool, I don't like to just, all right, if it's a square, I'm not just going to draw a couple lines and show people, hey, look at what you can do. I like to kind of create a little project around that. So it takes a little time to develop that idea. But for me, I figured it was 8 hours from start to finish, to get that tool, to figure out what I wanted to do, to build whatever I was going to build, to film it, and then edit it. It was 8 hours. So at, $40 to $50 an hour, it comes out, between, originally I was getting paid $250, and then I was like, we got to up this a little bit. So we upped it to $500, and that's what I get paid per video, which, to be honest, at now, we could probably bump it up even a little bit more, but I'm comfortable where that is, because, I could reach out to them at any time and they'll send me what I asked for, which I don't do that. I have enough. I don't need need anything else. I'm certainly not grubbing on tools just to put them in the drawer.
Right.
It's crazy, though. Like, I'm charging nothing, but I still think that value for you is really low.
It's low.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
But I'm like, I can't say anything because I don't do it myself. But,
Yeah.
You and I have texted back and forth, and I really think that the way your videos and how you edit and how everything's so seamless. I can't even imagine 8 hours being the editing time, but it's like,
That's what I was.
you're like the Yankee workshop of today. Straight up. Besides Norm, it just,
I don't even think you could pay somebody to edit your stuff for $500.
right, seriously.
Like, I feel like that would, even if you got somebody who was like an intern for a media company, they would charge you $500 just to edit your content, and it probably wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I think it's...
Sorry, woodpecker.
Even if you look at
It's been so cheap this whole time.
New rate sheet
I
coming
know, right?
soon.
Coming out.
You're like, oh God, just send him whatever he wants. He's so cheap.
Just send it out. They'll be like, hey, rates are going up.
Everyone
Yeah.
loves
February
me.
1st.
They're like, no. We listened to the
20%.
Modern Craftsman. We heard you on there.
But it's just like when you guys are doing a build or you're doing something like I constantly undervalue myself, whether it be in editing or in building a piece of furniture. Because you don't think people will want to pay what that you ask for.
I think it comes down to you don't want them to say no, and that rejection.
Yeah.
Not so much the value. I think it's so weird. I'll let you finish your thing, but it's not the 65 to 85. It's like 0 to 100. That's the gap. It's not like, well, I'll throw $100 at it, but if they say no, there's like no negotiation. It's just that rejection, and I think that's what I mean, that's where I get hung up. It's like, you know what? I've been working with them for years. I had this conversation with Malkeen all the time from Kukin, and I'm like, but I should make money off this. You absolutely should. All right, how do I ask for that? And then like you talk to R&R, Kyle, and he's like, I got an agent. He just does it for me. He does all the bad stuff for me, asks for outrageous numbers without me being involved, and it's just worked out. And it's like, so where's the answer?
Well, I have an agent now. I mean, it's through like a talent agency, and it's working. And if the good thing about having an agent like that at a talent agency is he's doing exactly what he's doing for Kyle. All the backdoor stuff. Like he'll come to me and say, hey, do you want to work with Squarespace on your next YouTube video? And I'll say, yeah. He goes, all right, well, here's what they're offering. It's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. He goes, and then we sign the contract. He takes 20% and I get the rest. So I don't have to deal with anything. I'll have to sign the contract, do a minute ad in the video, and it's great. So we're lining things up. Like I don't know, Timberland Pro did this big thing in the fall, and they signed me on. Then I was waiting for the contract, and it never came. Like, yeah, they decided to go with that. They decided I wasn't tradesman enough, which they're right. I'm not in the trades.
Look at all those plaid shirts you have.
But
Seriously.
And flannel.
Look at him. Carhartt will be reaching out soon.
Flannel.
Well, you can't see behind me on this rack is all plaid too. But the people that they did pick as tradespeople were all just content creator woodworkers like I was. So it was just bizarre. But we haven't landed any deals on Instagram like through my agent. But I can tell you this because I have friends that have, and we're talking like 3 posts and some story mentions for like $7 or $8 grand for products.
What do they have? What do they have for followers?
100, in the hundreds,
Okay.
low hundreds.
Just to kind of give perspective on.
Yeah, but someone like I just feel like with someone like you guys who have such an audience, one from the podcast. I mean, you can tell just probably by your DMs and everything else. And I know, Johnny, for a while you were doing like, hey, I'm driving home for an hour. Anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll give you whatever advice you're looking for.
I'll just
so
listen.
You guys, I just listen. Well, that's all. You can just be a therapist.
All right, I'm home. I gotta go. Bye.
Yeah, that's it.
This is great.
I gotta go walk the dog.
Thanks for this.
So I would think, the value that you guys have and the influence, if you want to get back to being a social influencer, you guys have more of a business influence on people, I think, as far as
Which is wild.
what they could buy.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's like
But you guys are out there, you're building homes, you're using those products every day. You're like, yeah, this siding stinks, this underlayment is awful, this is so much better because I've tried them all. So as far as product recommendations and things like that, you guys are.
But do those companies really want that? Or do they just want somebody, like I know companies, we're going to send you this and we want your honest opinion of it. And I'm like, well, maybe you really don't want my honest opinion of it. I feel like so many people, they want somebody to get up and to use it and say it's good for this and it's good for that. And I think it's similar to like I feel like when you're a discerning person that like we're not going to stand behind a company or a product that we don't believe in. And I think that's a hang up for a lot of people. Like they want to come to somebody and then be like, oh yeah, you're going to pay us how much? Sure. We'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten things products that are just awful and I just don't mention them. I just don't even do any promotion for them because I feel like my name's attached to that too. If I recommend something and someone buys it and it's a piece of crap, then that reflects poorly on me in my opinion and
But that's when it's not necessarily about the dollar value for you. You have you have a reputation, you have a brand that you're protecting more so than just making a quick buck.
Right.
I mean, I feel like the best terminology would be a whore. I don't know if we're allowed to say that on the podcast, right? But
we are now.
That like there's a big difference, and I think that it's very obvious to see somebody who's aware of their brand and they're doing it. They're still protecting their brand and they're not just taking money from somebody and putting out content because somebody's giving them a paycheck, where it's like, all right, I value, you can go on your feed and see that there's woodpecker, this and that, but I can still value your opinion on something because you're not just throwing tools down my throat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough balance, being objective. But I've gotten woodpeckers tools, one-time tools they sent to me, and I'm like, I will never use this. I have no idea. It's total one-trick pony. I'm not even going to do anything with it, and they're fine with that. There's no pressure to, when they send me something, to create a video and put it out. They're like, hey, if you could support us on this, it'd be great. And so I have things in my drawer that I've never even used, never touched. They're just sitting in there, and it's because I don't think me promoting it, because I don't stand behind it, then I think the video will stink. It just won't be up to my standards.
I feel like it lowers I feel like it also lowers your value. At this point where it's like, hey, well, he's promoting this product right now. I can't believe anything else that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that that's a turd, or everyone knows that that doesn't work, or that's homeowner grade, or whatever it is. And I think that that's important. I think that there's a way to, you can make a business of your social handle or your YouTube page or whatever it may be, without selling out and without basically saying, whoever's going to give me the most amount of money, I'll support that, where you actually believe in the product. And I think that that's really important for what we're doing, especially in today's day and age, where it's just an oversaturation of junk and money being thrown towards social.
Well, I think these companies have realized that, hey, we can satisfy how many people by just giving them free tools. A $100 drill costs us $20. So rather than putting advertising dollars in either a magazine or a commercial, we can give out a ton of free tools and get a ton of free press from even, you'll notice that, whatever they want, micro influencers, where, guys with, it doesn't matter, 2,000-3,000 followers, they'll get as much free product as they want too, because a lot of times
they're more apt to post it because it's like,
oh,
holy
absolutely,
crap,
yeah, look at what I got. Yeah,
right.
Yep.
There's 10 people that just came to my head.
Yeah.
I unfollowed all of them, just so we're clear.
John, I love how every
week
you talk about people that you unfollow, and it's I feel like people listen to this like, I wonder if that's
just
me.
So everyone's clear. There's a spoof page on me right now, and I go onto that page just to see who followed it, so I block everybody. I do it once a week. I'm like, oh, they're at 100. Who's new? Did I get the block?
It's amazing.
That's when you've made it, though, when you have a spoof page after you.
I actually have one after me now, because one of my biggest videos ever was just putting a threaded insert in. That's actually, that stupid video is what kind of propelled my account, where
really?
I gained
it's always something so
benign,
minor but
stupid.
Interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch,
So, and I remember when I created that video, I was building this walnut liquor cabinet, and I forget if I was attaching the sub base to the cabinet. I was using bolts and threaded inserts. So I just zoomed in real close and using an Allen wrench put the threaded insert in. And I posted it, and I was on my way to the post office. I said, "You watch, hon." I said to my wife, "When I come back, this will probably be my biggest video ever." I went to the post office, 5 minutes down the road, came back, it was at 20,000 views. Now at that point, my biggest video was 3,000 views. And then it just kept going and going and going. And even on TikTok, I posted it over there. It's 50 million views. It blows my mind. I don't know if it's completely entrances people.
It's all robots.
Or what?
Could you imagine if they leaked the footage of your podcast studio? What would happen? It'd be billions of views.
Billions of views. Everyone wants to get a look inside my closet. Yeah.
I'm trying to find this video now. I want to be responsible for some of these views.
I appreciate that.
He used to give us a shout out. I think I don't know if it's just me or it was Beach and Barn or whatever, but in the beginning, that's how I found you. I stumbled across you, and it was I would just get. Nick just texted me saying I went down a rabbit hole on my phone, and it was I would sit there and watch your stuff. And I'm like, oh man, if I had, but I watch your stuff and I love the craftsmanship of it, and just I'm more of like, where's the camera? Did he think all this out ahead of time?
That's what I mean. That's why I hired Doug, because I'm like, I don't know where to put the camera. Like, what am I going to attach it to? I'm going to forget. And I tried that, and it's like, and we continue to try it, and I talked to Doug then. I'm like, dude, just I need you to just follow me.
Dude, you clamp it, then forget to put the SD card in, and I'll be like, oh, what the hell?
Dude, I set up a time lapse for that the Lake Drive build we did. Totally forgot about it. Batteries died in I think before we even started.
Or I said it wrong, or like but the angles you get on the small stuff, and it's all in focus, and I think a lot of people get lost in, I just can't create that, and the fact that you had a full-time job and that you've been, I want to say tinkering or hobbying on the side, nights and weekends, and still being able to create this and calling yourself not just a creator but a content creator is super cool. That it is anybody. What was your budget in the beginning? Like a couple GoPros? What? Fill me in.
Everything is shot on my iPhone.
Shut up.
Yep. I've never bought a DSLR for video. I bought a GoPro once and I hated it. I sold it to and I think he proceeded the next day to break it because he kind of drops everything, it seems. But the DSLR, the reason I shoot everything on my iPhone because the camera's fantastic, and I'm totally Mac based, so I can shoot a video, I airdrop it to my Mac, edit it on my Mac, airdrop it back to my phone, and post it. So, and at one point I had 2 iPhones, so I could be getting 2 angles at once, and then I could pick from there as I'm editing. But yes, figuring out the correct angle and the lighting, because the iPhone is not good under bad lighting when it's dark. It looks grainy. It doesn't pick things up. So yeah, it took a long time to kind of figure. I mean, it takes a long time to set up a shot, and then I'll do like a mock run through to see how it looks, and if it doesn't look good, then I got to change this angle a little bit, or adjust, or put a little LED light in there, just shining enough so you can see. And the hardest part a lot of times is getting over the bench. So I had to buy this tripod that has this extending arm that goes out like a boom that goes out over there so you can get the shots down. But the reason I do all these up-close shots of the joinery and things is because when I watch videos, like if I watch a YouTube video, that's what I want to see. Yeah. I don't need to watch someone 20 feet away assembling a carcass or whatever. I'm like, I want to see how he did that.
Because it's not that good looking.
Right, no, that's
different. It's like HGTV.
HGTV, yeah.
Right.
It looks good from 30 feet away. It's got to look good from inches away.
Yeah, and that, believe me, sometimes I'm like, oh boy, there's a dent there in the wood or whatever. There's a scratch there. I can't
handle the comments.
I can't.
I'm gonna get for that.
Nick's just thinking about what he's gonna do with his spare iPhone now that he got rid of it.
It's sitting on my nightstand. Now I can use it as a camera. Dang.
And also in the iPhone, because you can lock the focus, if you hold wherever you're focused, if you just hold it for 2 seconds, it'll lock. So, because sometimes if you don't lock that focus and you move your hand in front of it, then it starts focusing everywhere else. So yeah, you got to lock that focus where you want that to be.
I think that's cool because oftentimes we talk about content creation and what what it can do for the business, and you're doing it in the sense that it's actually producing revenue. You're like it's actually income for you. So I want to get back to the Instagram comment you made earlier, but the fact that you're shooting with an iPhone, I hope that a lot of people get hung up on, I need to buy a better camera. I can't produce good content. I can't film video, etc. The fact that you're doing it with the phone is impressive. Obviously, like I don't think any of us expected that. A couple questions I actually have specific to that is, is your phone in airplane mode the whole day? Because I feel like every time I shoot a video, it's like someone will call and I'm like, I don't even want to reshoot that. Like that, it's so annoying.
Well, I think you get a lot more phone calls than I do, but yes, when you, it does, all of a sudden you'll get interrupted with a phone call sometimes but you know what? I've never even put it in airplane mode. That's probably a good idea when I'm doing a video session but like text messages and stuff, they just kind of come through like they don't interrupt the video.
Right.
But the other thing that I use like to capture all these shop sounds is I have a $80 Rode mic. It's like a little lavalier mic that plugs into the iPhone, and then I literally will put it on the bench just off camera so you can't see it. So it's close enough, as close to the action as you can get.
So you're getting better audio through the.
Yeah, so it cuts out everything else. Like, because in my shop, I get the hot water heater turns on, or the furnace turns on, or the neighbors across the street are talking, washing their car, or playing music. So you gotta have that sound up close, otherwise it gets everything else around. And then, like, that's the purpose of the shop sounds. You want to just hear, like, literally the teeth cutting through the wood, or the chisel, and hearing that shaving peel off.
It's funny.
You don't want to hear a hum.
Yeah, and that's what, and that's one of the things Doug had mentioned to me. It's like, good audio makes or breaks a video, a podcast. Like that's what people will give up on. They won't watch video if it sounds like crap.
Tell you what I'm about to give up on is finding this video of the threaded insert. That's what I'm about to give up on. It's been like 10 minutes now and I can't find it.
I'll have to email it and send it to you.
But going back to your Instagram comments, like you said that you've kind of been slow to share content on there because it doesn't make you money. And let's ignore the money side of it. I think specific to the three of us, we talk about a lot. Like, we do this because we're trying to give back and share our process and build our brand. And it's not so much. This has never really been about the money for us. But I think about Instagram, because you made a comment early on, is that's really what catapulted you into this space. And, in some ways it's like, well, you're giving up on it because it no longer provides value to you. Do you feel as though all the juice has been squeezed out of it?
I don't think it's all been squeezed. I do stories. Like, I enjoy doing my Instagram stories from the shop, which I always did on weekends, but now I kind of do them during the week as well, since I'm obviously in the shop during the week. So you get a lot of interaction with that. You get a lot of questions on things, but I feel like with stories, you can show people the process a lot more in depth. Like, this is why I'm doing this. Like today, I'm putting my second coat of Rubio on. Like, if I just put that in a post, like, why I put like, you can explain fully why I put 2 coats of Rubio on in the story and go in more depth. And people who really like your content and want to see and follow you, watch those. I'm blown away sometimes by the amount of people that watch those stories. So it's, you mentioned squeezed all the juice out of it. I'm starting to come back around and posting on there. The reason I wasn't in editing video for YouTube, because it's longer form, it was just harder for me to pull out those small details and put into a video to post on Instagram. And then also, when you post it, you got to babysit it and answer all the comments. And, I try to answer all the comments. I do on YouTube. I answer every single comment, because I feel if people take the time enough to watch the video and comment on it, then I owe it to them to give them a response. Now, if it's a crappy comment or something that, I don't particularly care for, then I'll either just delete it or pull a John and block them. But I almost felt like a couple months ago, or even 6 months ago, that Instagram kind of jumped the shark in our space, because people weren't posting, people weren't interacting. Like, all my friends normally who would interact on my posts weren't seeing them because of the algorithm, so they weren't commenting. So I was like, this isn't fun for me anymore, posting, because it doesn't
feels
seem
like you're just out in space.
Right. Random people are just commenting that I don't follow, or I have no idea who they are. So it just wasn't as fun for me. But I'd like to kind of start that trend again and get back into it a little bit.
I feel like it's still like that.
Yeah.
No, I feel like there's certain people that have I think we've all been, asked to be in these groups where, hey, I'm going to, I'll post, and then everyone comments on that post, and you have a bunch of fake comments, and that's just as gross as like, I will not write anything unless it's genuine. And it's like, all right, I gotta come up with something because I'm in this group. Like, what looks awesome? Oh no, it's gotta be 4 words because the algorithm. It's gonna be really, really cool. Like, it was killing. To your point, just killed the whole vibe.
What are you doing it for at that point? Like, if it's just to boost you in the algorithm.
Yeah, and it's like, for what? So you can get more followers? That's not my end goal. And then what kills me now is like, I have to go and look. The thing I do the most now is I'll go into my search and I go to the most recent people I search because they don't come up on my feed. So I literally have to search them out every time I go onto my feed to be like, hey, I wonder how they doing on that next step for that build. And it's like, and now I get a couple.
I've never had, like, that's never been the case for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
How many people do you follow, Nick?
Like
follows
5,000.
a lot.
5,000?
Out of all of us, he follows the most.
Yeah, and it's like I see I always see John's, Tyler's, like all of the big.
Well, that's
architects.
because you probably interact with them all
we
the
do,
time. Like
yeah.
if you're hearting them or commenting or what, like it will constantly give you.
And if you're DMing,
counts.
Yeah, it's
right.
Like I've never been. I don't know. I've just never been in a position where it's like, hey, I wonder what's going on with this person, and get to their page, you're like, oh, how did I miss that?
Happens all the time to me.
Yeah, and it's.
But you're probably DMing everybody. You're just a DM queen. Just
I am.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah,
what's up? It's Tuesday.
Hey.
You just have all this free time with the baby.
I actually do. Like when I see someone's post, I rarely comment. I usually DM them and like comment about the post in a DM because I usually want to talk about something.
Yeah.
But I had a thought there, and but it's funny. Like John, you've messaged me, be like, why every time I create a new account for someone, you come up as like
Yes.
I'm the first person that they refer to John as, you should follow this guy, and he's like you gotta be doing something.
I'm like, what are you paying
and I'm
Instagram?
Like,
because I have a couple
SEO.
other accounts, and it's like, hey, you follow this and this, you should follow Nick. And I'm like that's impressive.
It's like you follow totally random things. It's like you follow this person that through 5 people also follows Nick. You should follow him.
Yeah, so strange. And you were like, no, nothing. I'm like, okay, now my friend's lying to me.
But you'll notice, like, the people you watch your stories the most, those are the people that show up first at the top of your on the top of your page.
Or it'll be people I can't stand and I have to mute them. Or it's like, I still follow you? But then I feel rude because then remember like 2 years ago,
It's like, do I
everyone
want
was
to mute
keeping
the
track
profile and the stories?
And
Or
the
just
stories? Yeah.
But it was like 2-3 years ago. As soon as you like unfollowed somebody, they were like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like
Yeah.
people were tracking that stuff.
Yep. And and when that option where you can just mute them, I did a lot of that because I was seeing things in my feed, like how many epoxy pours and can you watch? I can't anymore. And
I mean,
so I
I
just had to
follow
mute a bunch of people.
like I follow a lot of people. Like 5,000, I know is a lot of people, but I unfollow anything that doesn't. If it doesn't bring value or it's inspiring in some way, I'll just immediately unfollow. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's definitely I must accidentally follow a lot of people because I'll get on their page and I'm like,
Get drunk.
You find
No, but
a lot more
I
stuff
think
inspiring than me too.
it's like when you're. I think when you're in the explore page, like if you're scrolling through looking at something, you hit the button by accident, or they
I get it.
like, when you're looking the screen where it shows you like who's commenting on it. It's like if they follow you, there's a button right next to it that says follow back. And I don't know. Either way, we're going down a rabbit hole of Instagram.
No, I've been scrolling through my comment, like where it shows like this, whoever commented on this and liked, and you're exactly right. I've accidentally followed people.
Right, and I'll hop on, and then
Oh,
and then it's like,
Like-
wait, why am I following? Like, this isn't.
Sorry
They
to
probably
miss-
made their day when you followed them too, and then they're like,
and then
"Oh,
unfollowed
it was
them 2 seconds later.
accidental."
Tyler said that to us so many times. He's like, so I accidentally followed this person today. What did I do?
I think
What's
I
the
did
grace
have
period?
somebody- Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did have somebody the one time who was like, "Oh man, thanks so much for the follow. Like I've been waiting for that." And I was like, "Definitely didn't mean to follow them. Like, how am I going to unfollow them now?"
Shouldn't have brought it to my attention.
Yeah. It's crazy that you have to be concerned with that. There's people who I've unfollowed just because I didn't like their content, and it's not anything personal. And they either unfollow you, or if they stick around and ask you questions, I'm like, I wonder if they know that I unfollowed them or not. Is this gonna get weird when they find out that I don't, and then they're gonna hate me? It's like maybe I'm overthinking.
That's
it.
the weirdest part about Insta. Is that back end of it. It's like who's following who. There's a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's a bummer.
Well, let's go back to, the business side of it, because I think that's the most interesting thing for especially our listeners, right? But for you, leaving a career, becoming a content creator, and looking towards all of these avenues. You talk about TikTok, you talk about YouTube. YouTube, I've seen some of these videos you post, start to finish, of a table, 2 million views. And from a business side of it, obviously you talk in the very beginning how you'd love to split content creation as 50% of your income. Couple questions there. Does that seem realistic, or is that just a complete shot in the dark as to what you'd love it to do?
I think it's completely realistic based on friends of mine who do it full time, who are quote unquote, quote end quote, content creators or YouTubers. It's absolutely possible.
What do you think? Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
With that being said, what is, I don't want to say the secret, right? But what do you need to do to have that ability? What for you to become successful in content creation, more so than you already are? What does that look like? More sponsors, more views, etc.
So YouTube is, for most people, and myself included, is obviously a grind. You're on there, Nick. I know guys that have 400 videos they posted and have 10,000 or 10,000 subscribers. I have 9 videos and 110,000. So it just so happened I have 3 videos almost over, or a couple over 1 million, that just exploded.
I'm the same way. I don't want to brag.
The downside to that.
I don't want to brag, but let me brag for 1 second.
I know, sorry. But the downside to that, as far as I'm concerned, is analytics and demographics play a big role in YouTube ad revenue. So certain countries, US, Canada, the UK, Germany, Russia, Australia, they pay the most money cost per 1,000 views for advertising. Third world countries, Indonesia, India, they're down lower. They pay much fewer. So I have a video that has almost 2 million views that has made less money than a video with 150,000 views, because my demographics on that smaller view video was geared more towards the US and the higher paying ad dollars. So I am trying to skew my demographics, which how do you do that? How do you get YouTube to only promote your stuff in these bigger countries and not in the other? And I think for me, it's because I only have, like I said, 8 or 9 videos up. So I have such a small subset, but as things start to grow a little bit, and at the end of your videos, you put cards of your other videos to recommend to people. So as more people start watching these, they start watching your old ones. So once you get the ad dollars, for a lot of people, I got a friend who just cleaned up the last 6 months, cleaned up. You wouldn't, I can't really give numbers, but you wouldn't
give him a
it.
shout out. Why not? Why are you leaving us
my buddy
hanging?
Bourbon Moth, Jason Hibbs of Bourbon Moth Woodworking, who was able to, he was a full-time furniture maker and was starting a YouTube channel, and now he can just build whatever he wants and create content around it. Doesn't have to do client work.
What's he do, shirt off videos? What is it?
No furniture. He builds furniture, but he's so damn
Nick's
funny.
face was awesome. He was like, wait a minute, what?
What?
I was like, wait, that guy actually might work.
He built a tank around his riding lawnmower and was during
Is that
COVID,
what did it for him? Because I remember seeing that.
That was part of it. The news came out there and did a story on him. Now he's just finishing up literally building a boat. So he's a very talented, it's guys like these that are like, man, how are you so good so fast? He's only been woodworking probably 3 or 4 years, maybe more.
So you talked to him. So what, for him, what was it?
He doesn't know.
Yeah. And that's
He's
what I feel
like,
I feel like that's so common. It just,
there's no
something
special
sticks,
sauce,
right?
Yeah.
And, we talk about AdSense and we talk about ad money and making money off of videos through ads. And I think and I'm speaking specifically to me, is, all right, you're starting to go down this rabbit hole. Now you're trying to cater your video to hit a certain demographic. And all of a sudden, and this is what we've dealt with internally, is that, holy shit, like we're making these videos based on what's going to perform better. Mm-hmm. It's like we are so far removed from what we started and set out for these videos to be. Yeah. And that, I'm speaking specific to me. Not everyone has that the issue of like completely changing things, but that is, I feel, probably what a lot of people struggle with, where it's like, I just want to document what I do and have a really good time with it. But when I start having to make it about, hey, I need to make an income off this, where is that balance? And you really answered it, is like Bourbon Moth. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't, hey, I, learned my demographic and I made a video that hit every single one of them and they all paid $1 per 1,000 views. It's like, no. It just, I built a tank and drove it in my backyard and a lot of people liked it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's just a funny guy, so he appeals to a lot of people, very witty and just goofy on screen. So, people go to YouTube to learn something, but also to have fun and enjoy what they're watching. And he brings all of that to the table. As far as, like, I've had to, getting back to what you said, is like tailoring your content to what people want more as kind of rather than what you would prefer to kind of show, is like, I've gotten a lot of flack for Festool and woodpeckers on these YouTube videos. You get the comments like, yeah, I could build that if I had all those tools too. Mm-hmm. So I've had to, like, even on this little console table, I just finished this walnut console table where I would domino the whole thing and I would have been done so fast. But since most people don't have a domino, it's not applicable to a lot of people, and they just don't understand, or they're like, this guy with his friggin' tools, he's not a furniture maker. So half of them I did true mortise and tenon, hand cut them, and the other, well, I didn't hand cut them, but machine, but on the table saw and drill press, and then cleaned up with a chisel and all that. But for people who don't have a domino, this is how you would do it. So I'm finding that I have to do that. I have to show both ways for people who don't have these expensive tools but still want to build it. So that takes longer, number one. So it's more time there. It's more time filming and editing. It's more time setting up in the shop. It's more time building. I just built these 2 patio tables, I think my second to last video, and I poured white concrete for the tops. Well, the bases, I literally made the domino base in probably an hour. And the other one where I had to do all mortise and tenon, I draw board them all. It took all day. Mm-hmm. So you have to, and that's where you struggle, because, all right, I'm making this much money from the client on the build, but I'm spending this much time on it. So I'm losing money, really, a lot of times. But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? But down the road, I'm going to make more money on YouTube. I have
Welcome to the
plans for
club.
this. I'm going to sell plans. Yeah. It's that trying to look ahead, and it doesn't always work out.
We're just lying to ourselves. Okay.
You think? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We all are.
Yeah.
I mean, when you guys were talking in the last show, or a couple shows ago, where you guys were just kind of unloading on 2020 on everything, and even myself, which, like I said, I'm not anywhere near your level, I feel these things as far as all the time in the front end and back end time you put into just building a piece of furniture that you don't get paid for. And before, as a hobbyist, who cares? It's just your time. And for me, It was experience, but just as an example, my next build is this walnut media console. It's basically a cabinet on the wall, but it's solid white oak they wanted. But, it started with a phone call with these people, and then I had to get white oak near me is very difficult. So I had a 6-hour drive to go get this white oak and then come back. I spent 2 or 3 hours.
Shop?
I know that's probably.
There's only
might have been a
he only has
little
walnuts
closer.
Might have been closer.
It's all walnut in Nick's shop.
I should have gone down to Groff and Groff. Maybe that would have been closer.
The northeast supply of walnut.
Of walnut. So 2 to 3 hours doing the drawings and SketchUp so they could see, and then the emails back and forth, 10 or 15 emails, and they wanted this flipper door hardware so the doors come up and slide in. And I reached out to a bunch of people on Instagram, JCH and Ham Built and Restoration Woodworks, my buddy Kevin at Fine Point. Ken at NS was a huge help too, helping me out. And real big shout out to Ken DeCoste, because not only did he kind of help me with solutions, but he followed up twice with me saying, hey, how'd you make out with this? So I really appreciate that. So after all of that, I got 15 hours roughly on the back end, and I still haven't put a blade into wood. So,
but let's not ignore the fact that you all, like, on top of that, now you're filming.
Yeah.
And in your case, it's you, Tyler. Tyler just texted us saying, on Nick's dime, he was following up. Ken, I hope you're listening.
I assumed it was on his lunch break, no?
Yeah, maybe.
I was thinking the same thing. I just texted him back. I'm like, was it during the day?
I was like totally sidetracked when I saw that text coming through.
Oh,
when
boy.
I'm sitting here
Nick didn't flinch when you were saying
no,
it either.
didn't even think. I was like, oh,
I
that's
watched
awesome.
his
Ken's
face.
such a good dude. Oh, wait a
Yeah.
second.
Man, I love my employees.
He's
I gotta check
double
his time
dipping.
card. He probably was like
Oh, right.
followed up with Keith again.
Punched out. Punched in.
He told me the first time.
It's a like vicarious marketing expense, right?
He probably had you buy a Hive notebook too, right?
I did buy one,
I sure
but
hope
not
so.
because he asked me to, but I did. Like, I like supporting.
Same.
He
Well, on
definitely
Instagram,
sold
we have
it to you
products,
while he
but-
was working for Nick too.
I'll answer the next question if you buy a notebook.
Well, this is kind of what I'm going at right here is like, with you, it's your time. And, at the end of the day, if it's a $5,000 table, you still get the $5,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, and this is specific, let's talk about Ken. We talk about this all the time. It's like, he's like, all right, I'm allocating 200 man hours to build this. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Let's also film that. And he's like, yeah, no problem. How do I track that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Overhead.
but how? Like, it's like, all right, so the guy has to, like, my guys slow down, and all of a sudden we're at 300 man hours. He's like, do I just write that 100 man hours off to marketing? It's and it's a real thing, and it's with content creation, like, that has to be a consideration. And we don't have the solution, and we're hey, let's roll with it. And Doug's like, I'm gonna try to do this as
Just don't
efficiently as
track
possible.
it, Ken.
Yeah. well, to his point is, like, at the end of the day, when we look at that job and say, how was it profitable? How long did it actually take? Oh, 300 man hours. I thought you budgeted 200. He's like, yeah, but we filmed it. And I'm like, did it really impact the job 100 man hours? And he's like, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know why else would be, that far, or maybe not. But how do we understand that, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what did you spend on marketing for the year? It's like, that's where the marketing, quote, I'm using air quotes, budget is the time that we're impacting what we're doing, and oftentimes frankly, you could probably go back and say this is impacting the client side of it. It's
But
like,
I think it's different if it were your main source of income, Nick. That would be different. I think that kind of absorbing that cost is, hey, we're gonna recoup that on the back end.
Totally.
But I think, being that your main source of income is building the kitchen and installing the kitchen, it's costing you money. I think that a lot of people who are creating content where it's self-funded, they're basically creating something, they're building a product, but they're using that product to create all of this content. And like, it's kind of the other way around with you, where you're going to build this regardless, and then you're like, well, let's film it. Where a lot of people are, well, I need to film something, so I'm going to build this, which, to a certain extent is what you're doing as well. But I think more so on your end, Nick, you're kind of doing it different than most people are. I think that most people were out there to create content, and that's their main source of income.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for something to kind of fill that void for them, and you're like, well, let's add it on top of what we're doing. So it's just costing you money no matter
Right.
what way you slice it.
Right.
Well, and how
that-
do you? I was gonna say, Nick, how do you quantify that marketing budget? I mean, if you're spending all this extra time on, like, how do you
It's
find
just
out?
massive.
Like, was it worth it? Was it spending all this time and producing these videos? Did it bring me more business? Like, is there any way for you to
There's no way for me
quantify
to
that?
quantify it.
Okay.
Look at his career. I think it's easy to see.
Well, I mean,
Kid's on a lightning bolt, trying to hold on.
I know.
Like,
friggin' hurts, but I'm holding on. Well, and that's the hard part too. It's like, even talking to my business coach, it's like, he's like, hey, I love what you're doing on Instagram and YouTube.
can I get a shout out?
but he's like, you're basically training all of your competitors. And I've always been that. I'm always like, yeah, but that's what makes me innovate. That's what keeps me on edge, and I'm not going to slow down. But at the same time, then I sit down with my accountant, and she's like, this is how much you spent in marketing last year.
What was it?
Last year? I forget
Yesterday.
exactly.
Just yesterday.
Don't.
Just give me yeah.
I mean,
Don't.
well over 100. Well over 100. I don't remember exactly. But I have Doug's full time. We're buying
Best movie ever made.
Yeah, 100%. We did a little print ad and never do that again.
I was surprised with you because we
and-
we went back and forth for a while. You arguing
know.
with me it doesn't need to exist, and then you went and did it.
I
And
know,
was like,
and I honestly think I did it out of
spite.
not spite. It was like, I wonder if I wanted to see if it would catapult me in the direction that I wanted to be. And
you needed a bigger catapult.
yes, that's
Wow.
what I
Like,
thought.
so
at
the one
time.
you built already wasn't big
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. And I was
you
wildly
needed something else.
You need to go over the moon, not just
Yeah. I was-
and back.
I
yeah.
overshot that one.
Listen, I'm admitting my mistake. But
was amazing.
The point, like, yeah, I have this conversation like, this is what you spend in marketing, and it's like people are like, and when I have that conversation, like, the question comes up: do you think it was worth it? Do you think people actually? Well, I guess going back to my coach, he's like, yeah, but are people actually hiring you based on your YouTube videos, or are people just watching them and then coming and competing against you? And I was like, to be honest, no. I mean, we have multiple projects that we got in 2020 and 2021 that all stemmed from specifically YouTube.
But is it brand recognition?
No, it comes down to positioning yourself to be the professional. Meaning, like, hey, I watched your video. I can understand that you know what you're doing and you appreciate the details and you're thoughtful in your approach. That's why I want to work with you. Once I found out you were local, it was a no-brainer.
So, like, compared to a print ad per se, a print ad is going to get you just brand recognition. Someone's going to see it, and
And
an
that's-
architect's going to see it. It's like seeing a billboard.
Yeah, and to give you credit, John, like in those conversations about print, that's kind of what my angle there, and like it's a different catapult. I would say is that I was like I really appreciate what you said is that right now a lot of people that are building are still in that mindset. What in like they're still looking at it, and the architects, like the well-known architects, like, if you're not in the magazine, who are you? Like, if you can't afford to be part of that group, where
You and I have both talked about a certain in particular company that spent $1 million in 4 years,
right, and
then worked themselves into the top 6%.
right, and
of the industry.
it worked. But the flip side of that, and this is what I actively remind myself of on a regular basis, is that what I'm trying to actually do is be recognizable in a group of people that aren't in a position to build yet. Meaning that when they are, I am the only option. Meaning a younger demographic.
Yeah, they're looking forward to building and making more money,
Like,
so that way
I can't wait till I get I'm making good money so I can hire you. Like, those are and I know like
I get that too. It's just usually moms and dads are like, "Hey, when I
guy
win the
just said-
lottery, I'm gonna hire you," which I can't really.
Which
wait
is
for
fine,
that.
but you're gonna have thousands of people that want to work with you. I don't need thousands. You know,
Kid
I
just said that to me pumping my gas the other day. I'm not even gonna lie. He's like, "When I get a house, I'm gonna hire you," and I was just like, "I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that it's gonna work out, but right now."
You were like, "Give me your number. Let's go."
I'll follow
How
up.
close are you?
I'll throw you in my SEO system and we'll go. But it like that's, you know, going back, it's, you know, the content creation, you know, the marketing budget, all of that, all of those things. It's, you know, I've always went into this saying, let's just document what we do. This is all going to pay off. I can't quantify it. I never will be able to quantify it. But the more time, every time someone calls and says, hey, I follow you on Instagram, you know, I had a call right before the podcast, and, you know, it was her friend that recommended, said, hey, I've been following this guy on Instagram. You have to hire him. We had a conversation. The budget wasn't aligned. I mean, by 2x. And
Did you
by
send
the
it
end
to me?
By the end, yeah, I called my buddy John. By the end of the conversation, it was, you know what? I think we can make this work. Let's meet. I appreciate.
Isn't that the worst though? Like, I'm literally not putting out 3 quotes right now because I'm like, you know what? I just can't comfortably do this anymore.
Do
like,
what?
My numbers are just. I when I finish a project, I'm always like, you know what? Like to what Tyler always says, it's like when it all racks out, I should be charging more, and then you look at what the overall value is, and then what the industry's.
Oh, let me back
for.
up. Let me back up, John. I wasn't the one that said I think we can make this work. She was.
Okay.
It was the other, 100% with you on that.
Yeah, sorry,
usually it's me like, you know what? I bet I could.
Right? See? Yeah.
I bet I could squeeze that. Like, this would be an awesome project. And
It's
I mean,
awesome negotiations. Like, you go in, you're like, I'm gonna be a hard ass. And you're like, let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
And it's, you know, and if any of my team is listening to this, they're all like saying, yeah, Nick's done it, and he's put us through hell for it. And there's definitely times that we take on projects that maybe we shouldn't, or that we try to be too aggressive with ourselves. But I guess my point is that it was the other way, where this potential client is like, we could make this work. I think this would be worthwhile for us to meet and talk more about it, talk more specifically. I hear you. I appreciate your honesty and being upfront about the cost. But I think this is, you know, what it comes down to is being aligned with the end result, finance aside. Is this forever? Is this your dream home? Is this something that this isn't, you know, we're not strictly talking about a financial investment here. And that's who we align with the most, is like people that want to build a home a specific way. So that's where I quantify the content creation, where it's solidifying people. You know, I'm never going to be, I don't think I'll ever switch entirely into, Johnny hates the word sales, but the sales motive, like, hey, all our
There's
video
another
and
word
our,
for it. There's definitely another word.
But
it's
it's
like
not
saying
like
cheap instead of value engineered.
True. But I'm not ever going to go into the all complete glossy images and be and only cater to my clientele. I would prefer to position myself as a well-respected individual in the industry that clients can also relate to.
No, you know what I think you are doing is you're doing that, but you're also showing everyone that you're chasing your own vision. And that if you align with that vision, it's good for you and it's good for me to be part of that project. But if you're not on that stepping stone to where I want to be, like in Australia building this crazy cool stuff, then it ain't the right. And I think that's an amazing image to cast, that it's not like there's so many people out there that are like, I'm going to take the next lead. The next lead is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to underprice it. I'm going to make it work. And you're looking for that stepping stone in your career, and I think people want to be that step. It sounds super weird, but it's like,
no, you're right.
I want to be part of that because I want to be part of that story. I want to be part of that success. And
we have a
really
job
cool
now.
fact.
Yeah, we have a job now where it's like, you know, it was very clear. It's like, hey, this might not be the right project for you, but I feel like it would give you the opportunity to put this into your portfolio, and here's why. And I weighed those things out. I'm like, that makes sense. We're going to extend ourselves. Maybe my involvement with the project is higher than normal, but it's at the end of the day, the value of completing that project, it is the value. It allows a certain, you know, box to be checked that, hey, yeah, we built that. Oh yeah, we can do that. We've done it. So Keith, like, I don't want this to be always about us.
No, this is
it's
all good stuff for me.
But it's like, to go back, you know, that's not the struggle I have, but I wonder, you know, Well, let me just ask, where do the furniture leads come from?
I have the last few have actually come from Instagram.
See this? So let me pause you for a second. That's exactly why I was asking the question about giving up on it, because I feel like that's where, YouTube's gonna get you views like crazy, but no one's going on YouTube saying, "Who can I hire locally to build me this?"
Where do I write the check to?
Right.
Yeah, but he only
Where
wants
it's
to be doing furniture for 50% of the income. So he
fair
doesn't
enough.
need-
And that's, I feel as though like the Instagram becomes the portfolio piece, and you can share the behind the scenes, but you do it in a manner that's understandable by the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other, like, people always ask, like, how come I don't show any mistakes? Like, oh, you never make any mistakes. Oh my God. I mean, it's a cavalcade of mistakes on every project.
Did Norm make mistakes? No.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
I watched it for a number of years.
We didn't ask. We should have asked.
In that
him.
25 minutes, he never made one mistake.
Not one.
Never shot one brad nail never came out the side. Nothing.
Seriously.
No
Like, come
cursing.
on. I should have thought about that. It's false.
But the reason I don't show a lot is because a lot of my work does come from Instagram, and the clients watch my videos. So the second you show a mistake and that you fixed it is when you deliver that piece, they're going to go right to that spot, or they're going to ask for a discount or something. It's just it's not good business in my opinion, because I did it once and I showed a mistake I fixed, and it was the best I could do or the best that can be done. And the second I put the table down in this guy's kitchen, he's like, "What's that? Is that the spot you fixed?" I mean, this
It's
beautiful
character.
walnut. Yeah, I mean, believe me, it's nothing that what your 3-year-old's going to do with her fork on this thing.
Right.
In 10 minutes.
It's but so that's why I generally don't show mistakes, and I would love to just show people how I fix them or how I fail fixing them, because I do that too, and you got to start over. But sometimes I just have to be conscious of that fact that my client is actually watching me build this. And that's another good thing with the YouTube, is that if you have a client that watches that YouTube build, like, wow, all that work and it only cost me $2,000. So
That's the best.
Yeah. Well, for them, not for me, because it
Is
should
your
be $4,000.
end goal to not?
That's on you.
You said that if you're looking to get into primarily do content creation, is it to not have a customer base for these builds and just be building whatever you want?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, listen, I know that may not be realistic, because
Come
sometimes
on.
you're not.
Look who's on
you're not
this
gonna-
podcast.
Well, it can't be that far off, because right now, like, you're losing money on your builds as is.
Yeah.
In
You're
order to
offsetting with the
generate-
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
you're slightly offsetting your costs, but it's not like you're going to have the material costs. You're probably eating a ton of labor right now, so I don't feel like it's not like you need to take 10 steps to get to that direction. I think that you're closer than you think to that.
I mean, if I can, the reason I like some client builds is because they offer new challenges. Like in every build, I try to do something, a new technique, or try something I've never tried, so it's a learning experience for me. And so generally it takes me longer because, or if I screw something up, I got to do it over. So it does cost me money, but it also gains me experience. But I assume I'm going to get to a point where, like, yeah, you got to stop doing that and just build this piece and get it out of here as fast as you can to make money, because the mortgage is due, or these bills are overdue, and maybe all of a sudden sponsor budgets dry up. Because I can tell you, at the end of last year, we were trying to work out some deals, and companies' budgets are gone in the last quarter. I mean, there's nothing left. They're looking forward to the next year in January. They're all like, yeah, let's talk in January when the marketing budget is when the coffers are filled again. So I'm actually waiting for an email from someone for a year-long sponsorship to use their products, and I'm just holding on to that. I'm like, you're trying to figure out your income for the year, at least on the fixed income. Like, I know that they're going to pay me this much a month for the rest of the year, so I can count on that money.
Mm-hmm.
Like YouTube, you can't count on it. It's going to go up and down. It's going to vary. Woodpeckers, I mean, that's not a fixed either. That just comes and goes. So trying to nail down your fixed income for the year, and that way you can figure out what you need to make around that to survive. I mean, I was making a decent wage on my day job, so I know, believe me, I know this first year I'm certainly not going to make that. But I need to be able to, like I said, pay the bills and survive into next year, hopefully. But if I can continue to grow on YouTube, because I'll tell you this, like my next YouTube video for this table, I'm almost done editing it. It's with a sponsor. It's $5,000.
What's 5,000? The table?
That's what they're paying me.
The sponsor.
Okay, 5,000. Well, I'm really getting 4 because the agent's taking 20. So $4,000 for that, I know, is guaranteed. I don't know how many views I'm going to get. I have no idea. So I don't know. Let's just say $1,000 for ad revenue. I'm going to sell plans for that. I made plans. I may sell some.
Yankee Workshop
I'm
at the end.
Pausing you.
Yeah.
I love it. You got to build 2. So that way
prototype.
you stand outside.
Is that typical? The AdSense is about $1,000 for a video.
I don't know typical, unfortunately, right now
because it's
I
new.
have so few videos.
Sure.
But this last table that I built, I made like $4,500 so far on it. So believe me, and this was a table I had to build twice because the client screwed up the measurements, and I ate it. It was 90 hours each time I built this table, and I ate it.
It wasn't any faster the second time? Come on.
That's an
you
excellent question. No, the reason is because
come back to that.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
it was twice the size. They cut their measurements in half.
I was actually a little excited to do it the second time. Like, oh, I'm gonna breeze right through this. I just got to make new forms. I know exactly what I did. But anytime you build something, like you have, for some reason, I had a whole host of new problems that I didn't face the first time, so it slowed me down just as much. So yeah, I mean, I really ate it on that table, and then you get the comments. Well, I would have never eaten that. I would have told them to go screw. They owe me this money or whatever, and that comes down to like, I'm not going to hold this guy hostage. Say, I'm not giving you this other table until you pay me for both.
Right. I
mean, because I had other work already. I've done other work for them and for their son. So there's a relationship there. I was trying to do the right thing, which sometimes hurts financially. I know you guys do it too. Like, you just eat it in the hopes that there's going to be some return in the future. But also, I'm just not that type of person. Like, I try to help out as much as I can, but to a fault, just like you guys. It's to a fault where you end up, my business could go down because of that. Right. So you gotta, it's hard being, that's always hard as a manager, is like being fair but firm, but
it doesn't make for a good, it doesn't make for a good business person to be honest and to be charitable and to have everyone's best interest in mind.
Except
it doesn't make for a very profitable business, to be honest.
No, it's you end up being the Salvation Army, just giving everything away.
Yeah, but the other part of that is, like, as you build a business, those are the points that you give up so someone else controls it and they can be the bad guy. Like Nick says, like, you know what? I want to be the creator. I want to be the guy on the boots in the ground. Like, that's exactly where I want to be right now. I'm putting Benny in the spot where, hey, if someone doesn't pay their bill in 4 days, 5 days, he makes the call.
Right.
Or someone else does it. So it's, I think.
Sorry, better make that table fit. How much you need me to take off each end?
But I think there's someone has to be. I used to joke when I was younger and say, hey, the biggest thing I ever did when I was younger was say, hey, I need to collect that bill. When it was just me, people would be like, oh, there's a negotiation. Be like, hey, Sarah in the office, all over me. When are you going to pay that in full? Sarah didn't exist. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like, if I could give something up, I'm going to give that up. Let someone chase that enjoys that part of the business, because I just want to go in there and just spend people's money and create it, not track it, and understand where it all goes and put the right people in place. So I think you can do both. It's just finding the right moment in your company where you're able to have the right amount of work coming in, where you can offset adding that person or that personnel to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's also though, if you're generating all your own content, and building that table, at the end of the day, that doesn't cost you any money, because whether the table is the right size or not, it still produces what you need it to from a content generation standpoint.
And hopefully someone else bought that.
Yeah, put it on Etsy.
That's in his house, man.
I was going to ask you guys, since you know so many designers, if you know anyone who's interested. Well, the problem is it doesn't have it was a bent lamination table. The legs kind of, it's hard to describe.
You're
but it got
awful
no
at selling
top.
things. Awful
It's
at
got no-
selling.
it's got
the
no
problem
top.
is this.
Yeah, the problem is
No,
it's
the unique
48
part of
inches
this
high.
is this.
Oh, it's very unique. It's all solid walnut.
It's not unique anymore. There's two of them.
Dang it.
Was unique.
So, yeah, I'll send you. Actually, I'd like to. I'll send you guys a picture of it. The reason it's tough to sell is because it's 2 inches taller than a normal dining room table, and it still doesn't have a top on it. So you put a top on this thing, and it's like 33.5 inches high, which the lady sat down, and she looked like a 4-year-old sitting in a regular sized chair. Like her chin was on the table. It was
That's
like
me every day.
That's so,
No,
yeah,
let's
so I
do
just
it.
gave
Let's try and sell this thing. We tried to sell a watch for Jonathan at Icon. Let's try and sell your table. We'll put it on
I'll
the.
send you guys a picture. You
I-
put in your stories,
I
and
think
I'll
you
give you
just need to
whoever
get-
sells it. I'll give you 20%.
You just need to get taller
25.
chairs. That solves that issue. Be like,
That's it.
listen, I'm going to
It's
buy
some
you guys
built-in
some new
chairs.
Yeah, I'm gonna put little risers on the bottom of these chairs, and here's a copy of the 9X Yellow Pages for you to sit on. And it's perfect height now.
All right, deal. 20% it is.
Nick.
So now, but I
Business.
got a question for you guys, because I have
Oh.
another. Because I have 2 things in progress, or 2 kind of quotes in progress right now. Some mudroom built-ins, and then this other. She just sent me the shop drawings from the designer, where it's a giant media wall and a library and a bunch of cabinetry, which would be a great job. I mean, and just in my mind, from looking at it first, it's by myself would probably be like 3 months worth of work. I don't know, maybe $30,000, $35,000. I don't know, because she doesn't know if she wants paint grade or wood. But anyway, yeah, that would be a great job for me, but I can't really make much content around that. It's kind of tough. So I just like forego that and then work on smaller jobs where I can create more content and make other streams of income from it versus just this. I don't know. The reason it's difficult for me is because my shop's pretty small. So to do rooms and rooms of built-ins and cabinetry is difficult.
So
So
we'll
there's
put an
a
addition on. Let's put an addition.
Oh, all right.
just
Well,
put a-
unfortunately, I'm in a townhouse with an HOA, so I'm kind of stuck there.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a
Sorry.
Sorry for your problem. So I'm just I'm gonna probably quote this thing a little higher than it should be, and we'll see. But I don't know if I can be finicky like in this early stage of my business, whether I just
So
pick
you-
and choose things.
And you're concerned because you don't think you can create a lot of content out of it.
That's part of it, and the other is my shop is so small. Like I don't know.
I think that can be
how
solved. I think you know, whether you build and rent a storage unit and put the pieces in as they finish. you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
we've actually done that. Our shop's not that big either, and it's. I mean, if you're talking $200 a month for a storage unit, it's like
Yeah, it's nothing. Right.
you can factor that in. But the content side, and this goes actually back to something you brought up a couple minutes ago, is like you get into these projects and then all of a sudden the project overwhelms you, and it's like, you know what, screw it, stop with the filming, I got to get this thing done, out of my shop,
Yeah.
get paid. And I know even for me, and I'm sure John, you probably feel the same way, it's like to create a series or a feature length video or document something from start to finish, that's a real thing. Like, you get to a point where you're just like overwhelmed by the fact that you also have to, it's like the client's not being great, I don't even want to film this anymore, or it's like, this is, I don't have enough content to film this week. That's a huge part of,
It's a burden.
it becomes a
Yeah.
burden. And it's, in the fact that, and that was one of my questions going into this, is do you ever feel that? And you answered it before I asked, because for us, right, like we're talking 12 months, for a build, or maybe
Yeah.
longer. And it's like, how do I capture this? And, we talk about it on air, off air. It's like, And not only do I want to capture the build, but I also want to capture like what it took to get to that point.
The ambiance.
Like, the meetings, meeting with the client, getting into it, building the house, what it looks like when it's done, the final shot. And it's like even final videos and final photography of homes, it's like we become so burnt out by that process.
Right.
That we like, you know what, I don't even care.
Well, you're also at that point, you're also in the middle of starting 2 other things or whatever it is. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I get the point where I'm like, I start filming, I start putting it all together, I set the cameras up, I do all that stuff, and then I get so into the actual construction and I'm like, priorities.
Right.
Priorities. What are my priorities? My priorities are the client, not leveraging the client's product for me. And that's where my conscience eats away at me, where I struggle with this a lot, where, hey, how much am I responsible for this build? Straight up. I've been doing this for 24 years plus. It's like, well, it's the client's money. It's their house. It's their vision. There's a designer involved. It's her ideas. It's her hours. What am I doing here? And I undervalue myself and the overall stature of the product, that should, just because I'm creative enough to put some videos together, that I should take credit for it. And that's where I get hung up. And it's like, you know, and I try and do my best at being poetic in how I write it, to go, hey, I am creating the best blank canvas for said client to fill it in and to put memories in it, or a designer to put stuff on the walls and make it unbelievable. But it's really the team, and I do get hung up way more than I should on, am I the one that should be representing this?
To answer your question, I would look at building the cabinet, because I think that right now is surefire.
I thought you were talking about
surefire
John.
money for you.
Hey, John, that's great and all, but let's get back.
That's
usually how the podcast goes.
That's what I'm thinking. That's like money in your pocket that you don't have to worry about if you get ad revenue. You know, I'm sure that you could generate content of some sort for that you could hook up with a sponsor for it, or a tool company to offset those costs. But it being early on in business, if there's a job that's going to keep you busy for a couple of months and pay your bills and put money that you can reinvest back into the company, if something else ends up on your plate, then deal with it at that point. But to turn something away seems, I don't know, I that wouldn't be. I think that Nick would be like, screw it, not what you want to do, just do. But like,
Well,
for me, it's I don't know, it's a step towards where you want. Maybe it's not exactly what you want, but I think it'll get you towards where you want to be.
I guess what I was trying to get to with that is I would also do the job. And I think what you're doing is, I think you're actually undervaluing what you could get out of it for content. You know, frankly, I mean, I'm giving up something that we've spent a lot of time looking into. There's very little content around cabinet making, specific to cabinet making. And I think your approach to it and your audience to it, there's tremendous value in it, and creating content around it, where to you it might not seem as though it would pair well with what you've done in the past, but if you want to look at it from a strategic manner, I think that there's absolutely strategy there, and all of the nuances with it you could kind of put out the window by maybe putting a 10-15% hike on the price, just to make sure it's covering your time, and the thought that goes into it. So I would, you know, to answer your question, I would agree with Tyler.
But what do you want to be building, Keith?
Furniture. Like, I don't want to be building giant dining. And I know, like, there's guys out there saying, you can't be so selective. You're just starting. You got to take whatever you can get. But I mean, like I was talking before, I'm physically a little worn down. Like, I can't be wielding giant dining room tables in my shop. It's just not set up for that. So smaller furniture, you know, console tables, little entertainment centers, end tables, I mean, coffee tables. I know those aren't like big ticket items, but I'm thinking content wise, where they're things that people can watch, say, hey, I can make that, buy the plans, build it. I can get a sponsor for it, and just keep rolling. But I think a good litmus test for the cabinet making on YouTube is I just finished at my sister's house a walk-in closet for my nephew. It's all painted nice, built in with crown, base, and soft close drawers. Like everything is really, it's not your typical 9-year-old closet, but it's small. But I filmed the whole thing. It was difficult to film because the closet was only 5x5, so to get any angles in there was tough. But it's going to be like a 30, maybe 35-minute video, which is a long video. Building the boxes, building a ladder to install them on, and installing everything, building the shelves, spraying everything. And that's probably going to come out in the next month or so. So I don't know, maybe that's a good kind of litmus test for how it will be received on my channel.
To what John was getting at, asking what you want to do, and what Tyler said, I agree. That is, ultimately, if that's not what you want to do, maybe not put the focus there. But from the business of the strategy, or even the social side of it, it's like I think there's still money to be made, and if it does fill your schedule, so you can, have a little breathing room while you queue up the next piece of furniture, I don't think it would be a bad move.
Yeah,
Right.
but we always talk about saying no and opportunity costs. That what happens if the next 3 products that you really wanted come down the line, you have to say no to those 3 because you took on this mudroom. True. Where does that hindsight, where does that value come in? So that's why I asked, what is it that you want to be building? That if you could align the two, and if it doesn't work, the next 2 months could be just full of nothing but regret. And that's
but
like
at the same, I don't know. I feel like at the same time, you're so new into this and looking to support yourself, and I don't know. I think that even social media and Instagram has kind of created this illusion where you can just say no to everything, and that like you're only going to take the jobs that you want and the customers that you want, where realistically you're not at that point. You just, if something falls in your lap and it's a decent job, and at the end of the day, I don't know, man, 2 months in like the hecticness of what's going on today and life, and
but 2 months for a cabinet shop compared to 2 months for what we are, is that like dog years? Like, how's that work?
It might be, but like at the end of the day, it's like 2 months. If somebody, hey, listen, like we're booking out 3 months right now. Like most people are booked out for no matter what you're looking to get till summer, till later. I think that, who's to say at the same time where it's like you take this job and you're like, hey, this is what we usually do. This isn't our typical job, or a referral comes from this that's right up your alley. I don't know. It's, for me, I think having that long-term goal in mind and moving towards that, somebody's not asking you to build a car. Like, like, hey, can you build a car? And this is still close to what you're doing, and while it may not be ideal, it's like you said, price it out, see what happens. If it makes sense and it fits your schedule at that point. But I do think it's a weird situation. Like John said, there may be something that comes on your plate that's right up your alley that you may have to say no to. But if you made the decision to do this and it's what works for you, and it takes some of that financial burden or instability off your plate at that given time, then like if something else comes on your plate and it's what you want to be doing and it doesn't work out, then so be it. This is the decision you made. It's tough. A lot of people right now with the industry and with construction and people having money to spend, everyone's busy, and I don't think that it's necessarily accurate or the correct thing for everyone to just be like, hey, I only do certain types of jobs, or that's not up our alley, or we don't do that. Because I think starting out, you have to kind of eat a lot of crap, and you have to do stuff that you don't want to do in order to get towards that end goal.
Right. And because the other part is there's a lot of, like, you guys know, there's projects around your house that are just sitting there that you just don't have time to get to. But for me, like one project on the list is to rip the fireplace mantle out, put a barn beam in there, tile the fireplace, make that all look nice. Like that would make a great video. And there's other projects around the house that I can make money on, but also make the wife happy and also beautify the house a little bit. Obviously, those can go on hold. They've been on hold for 2 years, so it's another 2 years. So I think since I have no time invested in this new project at all, literally I've just opened the plans, or one phone call, and I opened the plans that she just sent me today. So, I mean, I think I'm going to take your advice, definitely, and I'm going to quote this thing. I'm going to walk through it and see how long it's going to take. And I don't know if you guys know Kevin at Fine Point Cabinetry. He's close to me, and we had talked about maybe teaming up on this. Unfortunately, he's got a monster job that just came through that he's been waiting a year for, so he's going to be probably tied up. But there's a couple other people locally that I might be able to actually reach out to help me on this project and team up with someone so we can get it done faster, and then we can all kind of get a taste a little bit. So yeah, I got some thinking to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you get in a pinch, there's always options to get yourself out of it. I mean, even if you're like getting rid of finishing, where hey, I'm gonna build all these cabinets, drop them off to get finished, and then deliver them to the job. At that point, I think that you'll figure out how to make it work. Oftentimes, even as far as schedule and jobs and how I'm gonna line things up, I sit there and I worry about how it's all gonna come together, and then something goes wrong, something goes right, and at the end of the day, it just all kind of happens the way that it should. Where I'm like, well, I worried that I was supposed to start that job at the same time as that job, but then when we submitted permits, we didn't realize that they needed a zoning change too, and then it got bumped, and I lost how much sleep thinking about these are both going to hit at the same time. How am I going to have that happen? And then it's like, well, it all worked out anyway.
It always all works out in the end.
Yeah.
I think I also need to make a site visit to this house because I have no idea what it is. Could be an 1890s farmhouse with plaster and lath, and everything is out of square and unlevel, and it just poses another host of issues. So
yeah, I would definitely recommend doing a site visit first.
Yeah. As far as working on your own home, I don't know. That's going to be tough once you're doing your own thing. It's like, even you had the energy to be doing the woodworking on the weekends because that wasn't your day job. Yeah. And now that that's your day job, it sometimes takes the fun out of it. And it's like, well, I don't want to do that on the weekends. I just was in the shop filming all week long. I don't want to go out there and build our barn beam for the living room. Like, this is my time off.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you make enough money that you can then hire it out.
Yeah, that too. Right. And then film him and create content from that?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're just a pure content creator.
I know. I think that way when sometimes I probably shouldn't. But like, today was great because I went out this morning and I put the final coat of a finish on this table. Then I'm like, I was just kind of tired. So I took a quick nap, and then I just edited all afternoon because, you just walk out of the living room and into the garage and into the shop, having everything right there. You kind of have options. And it's not like I'm sitting on the couch at night doing nothing. I'm always on the computer editing. That's when I usually do my editing. But having that freedom now where if I don't feel like working in the shop, I can just put the time in on the editing. If I feel like being on the computer instead, that time is being used somewhere, whether it's physically working or moving a mouse.
I think it would be interesting too if you track that. Like, just have some sort of log at the end of the year to see, all right, first year in business, I actually spent, 2,000 hours working, but I also spent another 2,000 hours editing. Yeah. It's like you didn't work, that's 80 hours a week, straight. And it's like to understand what that, how much time is going into each of them, and then comparing that to, what was my income really 50-50? Was I getting that much revenue from the content creation side, or was I getting more revenue? And I think that, early on I wouldn't have recommended that. I was more of a flying by the seat of my pants type of guy, and probably am in a lot of ways still. But the more
What do you mean? I used to always ask you, what's the numbers behind this?
Right.
We're going to make T-shirts, remember?
And yeah, but now it's like, now I'm starting, like, I shouldn't say now I'm starting. Now I understand the numbers behind what we do. Way more so than I ever did. And it does get to, it does help shape things. And I think, and going back to something I said earlier, I think I ignored it for a long time because I didn't want it to become about that. I didn't want it to become, I didn't want to change my demographic per se. I wanted to just do what I love to do, and hopefully it worked out in the end. And until my company became more legitimate, and realizing that, hey, if I'm going to scale this to the scale that I would like to and build what I want to do and have the people involved that I want to have involved, I need to have a better handle on that. And that's, ultimately why I chose to do it. And I had, since doing that, I always wished that I could go back and really understand what the successful projects were. In my mind, oh yeah, that one was successful, but was it? Like, do I actually know if I made any money on that, or do I actually know if it, I actually learned something from it? I didn't, because I didn't track it.
Right, because right now on a lot of projects, I do keep track of my time in the shop, but not editing. You're absolutely right. But I also don't track, like, trips to the lumberyard and back, and trips, oh crap, I need something at Home Depot for this, I got to go there. I mean, that's time. You guys, I mean, that's an hour of time that I just spent going there and coming back as gas, everything else. So yeah, I need to be better at tracking all of my expenses to see where I can tighten the screws a little bit, and where I'm wasting time, and where I can be more efficient. I was at a buddy shop yesterday who, one of his friends is like a lean guy who is an efficiency expert. And I find in my shop, I don't know, when you guys are working, like, I got to take 10 steps to get one thing, and then I'm coming back and I forget it, and it's over here, and I'm going all around. I'm going in circles like a dog chasing his tail just to get a block plane. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, like, even if I just hired a consultant to come in for 4 hours and say, this should be over here, this should be over there, and that should be, I mean, I should be smart enough after building this long to figure out where things should go.
But it's just second nature. Like, Kevin did that. He set up a GoPro and watched his entire shop. Really? And I'm fairly certain. Am I thinking of the right person? I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right person. But they've set up a GoPro and watched their entire shop. And it was like I think what it came down to is trash barrels. That, like, everyone keeps taking like 20 steps to throw something away. Let's just get 6 more trash barrels and put them next to each bench. And it's like, and it sounds so minor, but that's a very legitimate, like, that adds up over time.
Yeah, I mean, because I got to go around my bench to get the screw gun. I got to go around this side to get a block plane, and I'm coming back to the same spot. So everything should be right here. Like, I shouldn't have to leave.
You said
for
fine
any
point.
Of these things.
Sorry, I'm thinking of fine line.
Oh, fine line.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, Kevin's not his name. As I said it out loud, I was like, I'm definitely wrong on that.
I mean, I thought it was just, I would always get the shop issue of Fine Home Building, and I would just peruse that and be like, that's how a shop's supposed to look.
Yeah. And I tried all the time. Yeah.
Almost every year for so many years, I'd wait for that one issue and be like, oh, that guy's got it perfect.
Yeah.
It's also got a 1,200-foot shop with hardwood.
Oh yeah, it was never the
timber
right size.
frame ceiling.
Like, yeah, he's got, exactly. His is 2,500 square feet.
I don't know. I feel like I always liked looking at those tiny shops that the guys make where everything's super
Wheels
efficient.
out.
Yeah, like they don't have anything that they don't need. Where it's just like the tools that they need, there's no extra, there's no fluff. They just keep on hand the stock they need, and I'm like, that's actually super smart and nice. Because I feel like the more space you have, you just fill it with crap that you don't need. Just move stuff around 2-3 times or lose stuff.
Any horizontal surface gets immediately covered, no matter how, like, oh, I'm going to keep this clean, it's going to be beautiful, and like 5 minutes later you turn around like, oh, I put everything on there. So it's the small shop problems. And to your point, Tyler, it's like, I have way too much stuff for what I do. I don't need it all, but I love tools. So you just start, over 20 years, you're collecting things, you're buying things. But a lot of this stuff is just in cabinets that you don't even see. Like, why am I keeping that? Why do I need that? And last fall, after I got laid off, I actually went back to woodworking, or not back to it. My first time went to woodworking school at the Connecticut Valley School of Woodworking for 5 weeks, and where they're very, the owner, the teacher, he's very old school as far as like, you don't need all that fancy crap. You just build a quick jig, and it's just as good as the one you buy in the store. And it really got me thinking that I need to condense everything down, get rid of the fluff, and focus on exactly what I need on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of it I don't, and it's just taking up space that I could clear out of the way and actually have more room to walk around or build something and put it over there rather than setting it on the kitchen table. That second table I built was on our kitchen table for the last 3 months. And I can't even move it upstairs because it doesn't fit up the stairwell. It's in the corner of our living room, and the cats sleep on it.
This podcast Inside the Closet is making more and more sense right now.
You can write that off as a display.
Yeah.
Just so you know, tax is coming up.
Showroom.
I didn't realize that. Let me take
The only problem I found with kind of distilling things, so to speak, is that when I finally part with something that I haven't used in years, it's like, I just threw that out. Like, I know that I had that. I forget what it was. Like, I know that I have some of that laying around. It's been in my shop since I moved here, and then it's like, nah, I just threw that out 2 months ago, and sure enough, I need it right now.
But don't you have those things that you forget you bought and you buy it again?
Yeah.
And then you find, I'm like, crap.
I just went through it last night. Our plumbing was leaking down in the basement, and I'm like going through
Shark
my
bite.
plumbing.
Shark bite.
I have 2 things of flux. Like, I've only gone through 1 thing of flux ever in my entire career because I don't do plumbing. And like, I have 1 opened and then 2 brand new things of flux. And I'm like, well, obviously I went and bought this twice now because I don't think I'd ever use 2 things of flux until I was dead at this point. Like,
like how many
I
little cans
forgot I had it.
Cans of PVC cement do you have?
That's exactly
just
what I was thinking.
I was going
threw out-
plumber's putty.
I just threw out 2
I have
last
plumber's
night.
putty in my cup holder in my truck right now. I have
Really?
no idea. I have no idea why. I don't even remember when the last time I
It's
used
Play-Doh. It's the adult version of Play-Doh.
it. Yeah.
Then I was debating whether I should mix the purple and the clear primer together to just make room in my plumbing bin. I'm like, do I really need clear primer? Like, I'm
That'd
not
be
doing
good
any
content.
finished plumbing.
I bet you that would get views.
Yeah. Mixing it, pouring it in.
I was like,
It must be plumbing supplies, because I always buy Teflon tape again, and I know I have like 2 or 3 in the drawer somewhere, but you always end up. I don't do many plumbing repairs, but it seems like every time I need to do something, put on a new head or shower head, I got to go buy another Teflon tape, and there's like 4 in the drawer.
That's what happened. I'll go and I'm like, I'm gonna stop on my way home and grab what I need, and then I'm like, but I might have it in my shop. I'll just buy it anyway. And then I buy it, and then I have like 2 in my shop, and then
I'll
I load them
return
into
it
my
if I
truck
have
to
it.
return them, and I have this like bucket in the back of my truck with all returns that I have to
Returns.
make of random stuff.
I've only made a return once, and it was when I moved my shop. And I put everything that was brand new in a bucket, brought it to Home Depot, and I got $1,500. It was like literally like PVC fittings, like couplings, like stuff that I just bought because I didn't know how to do plumbing, so I bought everything and put it together. And they gave it to me as a store credit, and she goes, just so you know, if you come back here, I am not giving you any more credits. Like, this is,
You've maxed out.
You've maxed out for the year of what we can give you as a store
Thanks,
credit.
Mom. I'll just go to another Home Depot.
Yeah.
It's like Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts. They're down the street.
Yeah, you like
Thankfully,
go on a
I brought
list.
everything. Thankfully, I brought everything at once, and it was one thing left in my cart that they wouldn't return, and I left and realized I bought it at Lowe's, so I went to Lowe's and returned it. But
It has to be done. You have to
Yeah.
clear that stuff out.
I was like, otherwise, I was just gonna dump it, Like, not because I wanted to be wasteful, just because I was moving a shop and I wasn't gonna bring like miscellaneous plumbing pieces to a new shop for them to just sit there.
It's true. I don't know why I have so many, and it's funny because you don't want to part with it. I'm like, I'm gonna use that at some point. Like, I'm gonna need that. I have even like a black sink or drain assembly that I
Right.
bought, and like I don't know, the customer didn't like the black on it, so we bought another one. And I still have it out there. I'm like, what am I gonna use this for? It's like what it takes is I get to a certain point where I'm so overwhelmed that everything goes. Where I'm like, throw it all out and just start heaving stuff all at once. It's like my closet upstairs, my attic, my shop. It's just I'm gonna purge at this point.
Dude, every time we have a company like meeting at our shop, Ken takes all the extra tools and puts them near the door. So when everyone leaves, they're like, anything you guys want, just take it off the shelf. And I was like, wait, that's the sander my dad gave me when I was 11. And Pat was like, I'm not taking that. I was going to take it, but now that I know whose it is, no. I'm like, no, I'm never going to use it. He's like, yeah, I'm not taking that.
Do you like what you're doing now, Keith?
Yeah, like I said, the reality hasn't kicked in yet, and like I don't have the sleepless nights like you guys do just yet. Where I mean, my sleeplessness comes because I can't sleep anyway. But where I'll wake up and I'll be thinking of something with a piece of furniture, like how am I going to get that to work or whatever. But I don't have the client issues yet. So yeah, I'm liking it. I'm like not driving and commuting every day to work, and where I can just get out of bed and roll into the shop. It's been nice so far.
Yeah, that's good. It's such a different time, and what you're doing is like, it's very similar to what we do, but it's also very different. And the one thing that would be a concern for me to ensure that you implement into your life is that you still have that separation between work and personal life, because especially if you don't have clients, there's a potential that you could be working 24/7, and especially with your shop being at home and being able to edit inside, that you don't have any separation between your work life and your personal life. And I feel like setting those boundaries early on for you are going to be very important down the road, so you're not letting work kind of creep in and take over everything.
No, you're right, and it's already kind of a problem because my hobby's now my job, so I'm in the shop 7 days a week because I don't really have any other hobbies. I mean, woodworking was my hobby. My wife rides Arabian horses, so like Saturdays she generally goes there.
Hold up, did we bury the lead?
What do you mean? Oh, no.
I don't know. Arabian horses?
Yeah, what is that?
What do you mean?
I'm gonna look it up.
It's totally normal.
That sounds super.
Oh, does it
exotic?
Sound a little high and mighty? Little
Arabian horses.
She grew up riding and showing horses her whole life. So.
Oh, there's a
Arabians
view there. If you Google it, you can view it in 3D.
Oh,
an Arabian horse?
Yeah, it says. Oh, you gotta put it on goggles. Oh no, you can spin it around. Oh, nice. Very pretty.
All.
This is very weird. Why is there three? Why? I don't get it. Either way.
I feel like last time I heard Arabian horse was like Lone Survivor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not typical, I guess. It's a small niche for horse riders. But anyway, that's her thing. Like, we don't have something like the one thing that like we do together is like in the summers when we like to travel a little bit and go to different baseball parks. But you can't do any of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can go on a hike together, but you can't really travel anywhere. I certainly don't feel comfortable flying anywhere or staying anywhere, going to different restaurants. It's like we're kind of homebodies as it is, and that, like you said, Tyler, that becomes a problem when I'm just sitting there like looking around the room, like, what can I do next in here, or what can I do first? What's the next project?
I think it starts small, because everything's so new and you're so excited, and there's so much opportunity and so many things are changing right now. But then like when you get to that lull where you're settled and things are kind of moving along, where you start thinking, like, I have to pay for this, I have to pay for that, I have to line up this sponsor, and then it's like you're forever working, where like I feel like the battle that most self-employed people have is there's no balance, there's no job security ever, where like you're as good as your next job and you're trying to line stuff up, and we have the luxury, some days a luxury of going to a job, going to somebody's house, but like your work's gonna be whatever you're creating at that point, and it's gonna be tough, and to kind of separate yourself from that, and then ensure that you still have time with your wife and everything else, and you don't realize how it's a slippery slope, and you don't realize how quickly you can be immersed in just all work, waking up in the middle of the night where I could create this, or I could do that, and I'm going to get started on this, where, it's the same stuff that we were talking about 2 weeks ago, where you don't finish your living room, and you don't finish stuff in your shop because you're so concerned with just your job and work. And I don't know, I don't think that life should be that way. You have to have that balance there.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really had kind of that balance, because my outlet was always going into the shop, or I like to play golf, so try to get out there. I might go visit my niece and nephew, which are close by, but yeah, it's going to be difficult. And where the stress comes in as far as content creation, like you're talking sponsors, like I don't just create a video and throw in an ad and post it. Like, you have to send it to them for approval, so you have to like film it, you have to put the ad in and wait for them for 2 days, and then they come back and they want you to make changes and all these things, and they have deadlines too. Like, a buddy of mine his deadline was Christmas Eve. He had to post his video on Christmas Eve last year, and he was barely done. He was right up to the last minute until he posted it. So there's people think that you're just posting videos, it's nothing. Believe me, there's plenty of these sponsors have requirements, and like I've worked with Lowe's before on their not last year, the year before, on like their Black Friday deals, and the rider they send you of things that have to be included or not included, things you can say, you can't say, the hashtags you have to use, it's mind-boggling. It's like a full legal contract that you have to follow, or they can renege on it if you screw something up.
Yeah.
It becomes, you have to have like a lawyer look at these things.
Those people, you're playing with people with much deeper pockets.
Yeah, exactly, much deeper than ours. So yeah, and it's like, you're seriously gonna quibble over like $5,000 based, like, if I don't say this or include this one little thing, or you didn't like my facial expression or whatever. It's like, okay. But again, it's like every other job, they all have their
your clients are going to be your clients regardless of you're building a table for them or producing content. You're still going to be dealing with the client, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's something new, like you said, so it's fun, but after the grind kind of an office job for so many years, it's refreshing. And I always said if I get laid off, I would, because I have this to fall back on a little bit, I'm going to give it a go. If it fails, I'm not a guy that's going to sit here and say, oh, this is never going to fail, I won't let it, because it could. I don't know. Something could dry up, or something could happen where I get hurt and I can't, physically build furniture, and I have to get an office job.
Are you pitching to SawStop right now?
I own one. It's funny because I was pitching to them and we were talking, and then literally COVID hit the next week and there was just radio silence. So I just bought my own.
Damn.
Yeah. They're tough. They're tough with their
they're partnered with Festool, right? I think they're owned by Festool.
Yes. Yeah. And you talked earlier, Nick, about Festool not giving stuff away. I mean, they're sponsoring people now. If you look, they have influencers now. Some of my friends are getting tools, are getting paid for posts.
Interesting.
And it is interesting, and I wonder why that is.
Well, I know that I know very little, but I know they did make some pretty big changes in their marketing. So, and I don't know if it was an ownership thing or what, but maybe that's what drove it.
Probably Sedge.
Could be.
Keith, looking to the rest of this year and long term, thinking like in the time that you've kind of thought about how, I guess going back to the bourbon moth conversation, but what are some of the things that you think that you'll be implementing in order to actually facilitate a 50% earned income through content creation? Are there changes, or is it really just a quantity thing?
I think the first 6 months here are going to be kind of telling for me as far as sponsored deals that my agent kind of gets me, the work I take on, as how much my YouTube channel grows and how that income grows from the ad money, and how other sources of income, my friend Ann of All Trades, who gives webinars on things like this, passive income streams, where you can take a $600 table that you built and turn it into like $30,000. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, it's like we were talking before, creating a video and getting the ad money, creating plans. You can sell photography to places like Shutterstock. They pay for high quality photographs. So there's all these avenues and streams of revenue that you can, writing an article for a magazine. They actually pay decent money for an article, but you have to know up front you're going to be writing an article. So you got to take pictures all along the way. You have to be a decent writer, or at least they have to have an editor who's can fix kind of all your mistakes. But there's all these other things that you can do along the way, but they all take time. But if you know up front how much time that's going to take, like I know it's going to take me 4 hours extra to take the photographs for this. It's going to take me 8 hours extra to do the filming, and budget it that way. But only doing it part-time before now, there's no quantification. I got nothing. It's just kind of all in my head how long I think it takes, which is probably double what it really takes. So actually what you said, Nick, to kind of calculate or keep track of my video editing time, I'm going to start doing that. And I don't know why I haven't done it before, but I'm going to set a timer up, and I'm going to be able to. Now, there's got to be something where you guys, because I know when you log in, if you're a computer operator and you're working on a specific job, you can log into a job 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm logging in at 6 o'clock, 6:30 I punched out, and 6:30 I punched into job 7, 8, 9, and I punched out here. So if I can find something like that, or even if it's just keeping a tally in my notes app of how many hours that I spend, that'll give me a real picture into where my time is being spent and whether it's worth it or not.
If you find out, that you don't have to edit as much or anything like that, that's to be able to quantify that, I think will be really big.
I'm an over editor. I know, because when I talk to my friends, like, yeah, I edited that video in 8 hours. I'm like, 8 hours? I spent 40 on that, because I'm just trying to chop things up into my Instagram style video, whereas you don't necessarily need that. YouTube is more, it is more of a bring it back a little bit and show more of an overview, but that's just not what I do.
What do you use to edit?
Final Cut Pro. So for years I just used iMovie since it's on a Mac, and then I upgraded. It was like $300 for Final Cut Pro, which is basically iMovie on steroids. So it was an easy transition for me. I tried the Adobe products, Premiere, and I could not wrap my head around it. And I've been using Photoshop and InDesign for years, and I just couldn't. It was well beyond me. So,
what's crazy is that, so we had a couple site guys, and they all, do hammering of ledge. And I was like, hey, how do you break out your numbers? They go, we take the rental charge for that excavator and hammer and then use that as our rate. So instead of, on the flip side of tracking your time, what if you were to just say to someone, send them a video and go, hey, what would it take you to edit this? What would be your cost? Because no matter what, you're going to undermine what your value is. But having that in case, like Tyler, we talked about this, subbing it out. Yeah. Like what happens if you were to sub out, just price out interior carpentry? I know it sounds crazy for Tyler to do that, but or paint.
Make sure you're covered at least.
Yeah, just see what that number is. Still do your calcs, but then maybe take the average of the two. If one seems really low, the numbers that you calculate maybe you're super efficient. But going back to adamant, maker table, it's like how scale is a really scary word to me. I think it's just efficiencies and being able to delegate is how I think of the word scale. Is that what if you were to scale or delegate in the next 2 years? Stuff that going back to the efficiency of just making sawdust. what could you give up, or maybe it's just editing more. I don't know. And
No, that's a great point, and because every YouTuber that I know struggled with that, because when you film something and build something, that's your baby. Like, they're, someone that wasn't there, they're not going to know how I want this edited, and but what people find is it takes a few times for them to get to know your style, and then you kind of create a relationship with that person. They kind of know what you want. Listen, that's something that may happen. I can tell you what I tried to outsource was my thumbnails. Because, for YouTube, you need to come up with a thumbnail that's eye-catching, that someone's like, what the hell is that? Let me click on that. It looks awesome. And, some people with their clickbait and their silly faces and, that gets people to click. But for me to create a thumbnail, it takes, sometimes I'll go back and forth, like with the text and the font and how to, because you have to know when someone looks at a YouTube thumbnail in my screen, it's humongous, so it looks fantastic. But everyone's looking on their phone at like this little 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch icon. They can't read type that's really small. So you have to make sure you design it in a way that can be seen on all platforms, whether it's on a phone or it's on your computer. So I tried to outsource that because I was spending a lot of time on it, and I just kind of, I went like you guys do to Upwork, right? Didn't you try to outsource some stuff through there, or Fiverr?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah. So I went through Upwork, and I had a couple people, and I just wasn't liking kind of what I saw. So I was like, all right, I'll just table this for now, and I'll come back to it maybe. Like even like my logo was designed by someone in Indonesia on Design Crowd. If anyone's looking to have their logo done, Design Crowd, I think, is an awesome service, because I put up my requirements. I got 100 and something design ideas for and I end up paying $350.
Wow.
Like it's in Fiverr, you only get one because you're only working with one person, whereas Fiverr, and I guess Upwork too, where all these designers are competing for your business. It was actually hard to kind of narrow down that logo because there were so many good ones, because they're coming from all over the world. But to me, that's something that outsourcing your logo to multiple people is way better than just hiring one designer, because they only have one kind of vision for you. They only have one thought, whereas you can deal with hundreds of people with one of those other services.
I'd be scared getting 100 versions of something.
With
Where do I even stick? Imagine giving a customer 100.
It's hard to call
Here's
through.
100 pieces of tile. Select one.
Which tile you like? Here's 100.
I know I have a hard enough time with just 2. Like, I don't know. What do you think? This is a little too green. It's a little too. I don't know. We in 2 years we still haven't painted our living room.
This one and that one and this one combined. Be like, I should have just given them 2.
Do you guys have paint swatches on your walls at home that you just haven't picked a color yet?
I haven't gotten that far.
I
They're
paint
not even
everything
swatches.
white.
Yeah.
Everything's
Everything.
white.
That's a good
I have the
solution. There you go,
color
John. You got your ceiling picked out though, John.
Yeah, just needs another coat.
You're on mute.
Oh, I am on mute. I
Yeah.
did that on purpose.
Yeah, John, you're almost there.
What's that?
You're almost there.
Oh yeah, baby steps. I need to do the furniture.
If you just took down the blue tape, it would look like it was done.
I did it on that side. The plastic's off. The plastic's still all throughout the rest of the room. It's just behind me, isn't that?
It's a vapor barrier.
I thought that was blue tape, so that's blue paint on the wall?
No, it's tape. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I pulled the plastic down.
Keith, I wanted to ask, when you mentioned it before, you just reminded me, how did you find an agent, and what even like drove you to that? Was that a recommendation by someone else?
Yeah, it was actually my buddy Bourbon Moth. It was a guy that I was like, how are you getting all these ad sponsorships on YouTube? It's like, oh, I got an agent. It's like, all right. He's like, yeah, that they might be looking for some people. So I reached out to them, and yeah, it just so happens that they're talent agencies, they're called, and they, some of them deal with different companies than others. My agent is pitching Ariat right now. I don't know if you know them, like Workwear and ARIAT, for like a 3-video
Western
deal.
boots.
Yes. See, yeah. You're my Keel boy boots.
Yeah, man.
My wife, who rides horses, is going to be pretty jealous if I
Yeah,
I'm not
she
able to
is.
get her some.
Arabian horse cowboy boots.
Arabian horse.
But yeah, that's where I didn't even know it was kind of possible to kind of have one. I didn't know, and when they take 20%, that's fine. I don't mind outsourcing that because
Dude, if
I
they
would
take 20% and you can tell everyone that you meet you have an agent, it's worth it.
Oh,
Like, yo, I got an
I put it
agent.
right,
You just
right on
that
my business
puts you at a
card.
It's
different
okay,
light.
I'd love to do work with you. Oh, no.
Here's my
Yeah,
agent.
Talk to my agent.
Dude, that's
When
worth
you look-
it right there.
When you look at my Instagram profile, my email address is my agent's. It's kjsawdust@influent.co or whatever. Or
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah.
That's legit. I
So
might
it
just
all
tell
goes to
people I
him.
have an agent,
Yeah.
just not even have one.
And you can charge a higher rate.
Yeah. Like, I got to give 20% of this to my agent, a.k.a. my wife.
Right.
I need Nick's already on the phone looking for an agent.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second. What?
I give you my old
Google
agent
this.
for when I was a child star, Nick.
That'll do. I think that'll work.
Oh,
No,
man.
I mean, I think it's interesting, and I think, I don't want people to discredit the agent side of it, because I think especially when you want to produce income and this becomes, like, you want to be a content creator, and there's so much space in this industry to do that, working with, we talk about this on the podcast all the time, and I think we just recently talked about it, and that's how the Fiverr thing came up. And Maker Table was the one that kind of started that conversation, is that hire people that are better at you, that you're not, you don't want to go out there and pitch that you'll do a video for someone. It's like they're the professional at it. Hire someone, give them the 20%, and then you get to do the fun stuff.
And they're going to ask for more money than you would have anyways.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because they know, they understand the market. They know what they're
Yes.
doing. And it's, I think, at least for me, what it comes down to is, like, oddly enough, it's like pride. It's like, oh, I just want to swing that deal myself. It's like, but why? Like, what I actually want to do is I want to make the video and build something cool, not have to go back and forth and figure out, hey, did you get my proposal? Hey, are you interested in working with it?
Work
Hey,
through the parameters.
I need that product now. Hey, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to put that back in the budget.
Come to think of it, I kind of feel like you are my agent, Nick. 'Cause
I'm gonna need that 20%.
I feel like
Seriously, you
everything
wrote the
that we've
contract for
done,
us in
we
the
got
last one.
more money because Nick went to them first.
Oh,
So
yeah,
true.
yeah, that is.
They were like, who else do you refer? Tyler and John.
Nick, hold on, I got that. Can you get a hold of my agent, Nick, at designbuildrepeat.com? He'll know what this
No,
is
it's
about.
nsbuilders.com. We
NSbuilders.com.
got rid of Design Builder.
Did your agent do that for you?
Yeah, actually, he did.
All right.
One other thing that I do outsource actually is when I make plans for a project, I outsource those where they'll do
smart.
the SketchUp drawing,
Yep.
they do all the exploded drawings, the dimensions, everything. Charges me $50 an hour, and it's so worth it because it comes a nice package, got my logo on every page, like it's beautiful. I could probably learn how to do it if I want, but like you said, that's just
Do the fun
outsource
stuff.
that, and it's easy,
Yeah.
and I know it's going to be done perfectly in the way I want it, and it's off my plate, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, no, it's smart. You do the fun stuff,
Mm.
and outsource the stuff that you hate, or
Right.
not, or not.
That's business right there in a nutshell.
Right. And we're all guilty of not doing it enough. We try to put too much on our plate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't think anyone else can do it as good as you or
Right.
your level.
How do
or
I
the
explain
It
how
costs
quality.
you too much
yeah.
money up front.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. I might
Keith
start
is-
outsourcing everything.
Hey, that might be the
Just
move,
sit at-
dude.
Dude, just sit at home.
Imagine that. You'd last like 4 days.
Yeah. My agent will take care of that.
He'd be on a
Yeah,
dirt bike.
outsourcing that.
He'd be like 2,000 miles on the dirt bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as one person sets up and he walks in on like a Friday.
I'll
What
have to,
the?
No,
I'll
yeah.
have to send my agent out there to get him to do it better.
I hired a guy just for Ramboard, then just for the build clean.
That's all he does.
It's like that bathroom remodel. Yep, 182 guys went through that bathroom.
Yeah.
Keith, this was super cool. I think it's an interesting look into kind of the content space, which we haven't really talked about. We casually talk about Instagram, but to build a business out of it is super interesting, and it seems as though you have a pretty good hand. There's your plumbing buddy. That's the exact same putty I have sitting in my cup holder. But obviously looking back at this year, the layoff, that doesn't seem like a very positive thing to reflect on. But I feel as though you've positioned yourself in a manner that can turn that negativity into something positive, and building something great out of it. And you trying to figure it all out and look into the year and getting your fixed income figured out, I think will come easier than you probably think, especially with an agent.
Right. It will definitely help.
Because
you're going to have things lined up already where things are coming in. But I never wanted to be my own boss. I know people like to own their own. You guys love to own your own businesses and kind of be in charge, but I'm always good at being a number two, reporting to someone and being tasked with certain things.
Well, I think that's where and sorry to cut you off, but I think that's
okay.
You're positioning yourself to be that. You're going to be tasked by these partners. These people are looking for specific video. You're going to be tasked by that stuff, and that's going to slowly outweigh you having to kind of tell yourself what to do, or chase down a job to make ends meet. It's that agent or that partner that wants to come in and work with you. I think all of those things are gonna work in your favor, and you'll get to continue to not be so reliant on your own self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys are so insightful.
I think you reach out to this old house and be like, hey, I think we need to do a new Yankee Workshop digital edition. And
with
they
me.
Pay you for that. Yeah, straight up. I think it would be a slam dunk.
Can I tell them I have John Hourihan's
and Nick.
Just tell him that John is your agent. Screw it.
Yeah, you and Kevin are good friends, right?
Yeah, we're awesome.
Seen you guys?
Oh yeah,
best buds.
Seen you guys in pictures.
Best buds.
Oh, have you watched the video when Kevin interrogates him?
No, I missed that one.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
It's a good one.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a good.
Yeah, I was hoping to actually kind of meet you guys in person at JLC this year, but I don't think that's happening again.
I don't think so.
But when it does, though, we're gonna do a live show.
Yeah.
Putting it out there.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Live show in an auditorium.
With
awesome.
The biggest audience ever.
I'll check with my agent, see if I'm available.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
To attend.
Now we got to get you off this show. Get out of here. No, honestly, Keith, thank you so much for hanging out, man. Appreciate it.
No, this was awesome for me. I appreciate the advice, and you guys probably don't realize I got a lot out of this myself as far as
That's
information and tips and support. So I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. And what's your podcast again?
The Shop Sounds podcast. That's with myself and also Jason Hibbs, Bourbon Moth Woodworking, we mentioned earlier, and Nick Key of Key Woodwork. So we call it, it's a woodworking podcast about nothing. We have no agenda. We have guests on here and there, but we just get on and kind of talk about what's going on in the shop and see where the conversation goes. There's never an agenda. So.
Love it.
Having fun.
Dude, you rock.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. All right.
Get out of that closet.
But it's nice and warm in here.
I bet it is.
Got the heat vent right over my head this whole time.
Go get some water.
I'm baking.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you guys
See
later.
You,
Thanks.
Keep building. That's my new out. Keep building.
Keep building.
Keep building.
Keep building.
I like it, John.
Build on.
You can use that one. Oh, someone requested Keystone Carpenter.
We already had him.
Yeah, we had
That's
him
right.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, they probably can't get it because we haven't posted all the.
Well, it's funny. I don't think if you're downloading the podcast for the first time, it starts at 1. But if you've listened to them already, it starts at it only shows 100 because someone just posted like number 4.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I was gonna have it queued up and I forget. I'll bring it up later. I didn't even look if we had any reviews.
Tyler, someone wants your wife back on.
Who?
They don't. It doesn't show in the review, not the reviews, in the survey, who the person is. I just read them all.
Bring her on. What's it say? She was pumped, dude. She had like people, other other wives of contractors touch base with her. I was like, yeah. She was like excited about it. It's pretty cool.
We'll have to get him back on.
Oh my goodness, we got a long review.
Now that the baby's here,
Yeah, you got time now, right? You guys just switch up.
Me?
everyone has to congratulate Nick. Big week,
Well, Nick's
right?
wife.
It's
And
my
Nick, too.
wife. She's the champ.
I
was
love
like-
the fact.
I was like, "Are you sure I can record?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." I'm like, "All right, there's 3 of them right now." And
There's 3 miniature versions of me running around.
and there's 2 of them. The 2 older ones are not being helpful to the situation. They're trying to be on top of the baby.
Yeah, smothering
So
them.
I was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep my phone in
kissing.
my hand. Text me if I have to hop off. But she's been she said it's all good down there.
Definitely gave him Benadryl. So everyone's good.
Everyone is good. We got a long one, so I'll give it a shot. I'll read the short one first. And I don't actually follow. 5 stars, but no one will ever be happy because if you work Saturday, you base your life around that extra money. Don't get trapped like a rat.
Ooh,
Yeah, Steve Joyce Jr.
Junior.
Yeah. I don't
What's
know.
up, June? Yeah.
Don't get
J-
trapped like
J.
a
Delp.
rat.
Rare quality, and I wish that wasn't a term. I wish the quality of construction and humanity in general was more widespread. I wish we treated our buildings and our people with more respect. I wish our industry had a greater focus on design that our society had and that our society had a 100-year blueprint of what we aspire to build. I know I'm dreaming, but if the Modern Craftsman has reaffirmed any faith in anything, it is that dreams push progress. These 3 men first dreamed of the companies they built, all individual, all varied in scale, but all adhering to an unwavering commitment to quality, respect for the craft, and to the people who execute it daily. They've dreamed it and they've built it. It wasn't easy, not by far, and I'm sure that their trails littered with the typical blood, sweat, and tears. But last week, the guys really let us behind the curtain and let us in on the toll the journey has taken on them, their physical and mental health, and their families. This is real, and this is important. Why? Because it shows that a millennial generation, yes, I think all 3 of you qualify. Tyler, Google it. John, like me, might be right on the date line, but not afraid of hard work.
John's a baby boomer.
Is not afraid of hard work. We aren't afraid of sacrifice. We are a strange generation with a focus on joy in our daily work rather than the elation in retirement. We want our work to matter more than a paycheck. We value the respect of our peers as much or more than the respect of our superiors. To flip the script, maybe the problem isn't millennials, but instead the systems throughout American workplace that have turned people into numbers. The millennial perspective inspires more hope than doubt. Thank you, John, Nick, and Tyler, for consistently raising the bar in an industry that has been dominated by good enough for far too long. Thank you for your reach and your community that let us and our wives know that we are not alone. Dreaming again, but if a third-party political wing ever gains a foothold in American politics, I hope it's MC Nation.
That or Nader.
Keep building it all better every day. From
Nader.
Jordan Delp.
Dude, that's like the review
Jordan.
equivalent of our podcast.
Jordan. That was really nice.
It's like everyone else's podcast is X amount of time, and ours is 3X. Pretty much. It's funny when you were reading that, I was like, this kid definitely didn't listen to the last, but then he got into it. Or
Yeah.
she. I don't know if Jordan's a boy or a girl.
Listen, I do my daily, my weekly, Monday morning story share, but the amount of people that reached out about episode 155, it hit home, and I know all of us dealt with that, and it's like I started soliciting people to listen to it. where it's like, hey, I don't know if you've listened to 155, but I think you should. And I never do that. It's like I just kind of let the podcast be its thing. I'm not going to try to push someone on listening it. But with the response that I got from so many people, I realized that we dug into something more than I think we maybe intended to, for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed. I cleared off all my DMs for the first time, I feel like, in a couple of years. And then it just got to be too many, and it's back piling up again. I was like, I was on top of it. I didn't have any extra like spare in that separate folder. And then it was like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do it. Now they're starting to pile up again.
Well, with that being said, we appreciate everyone's support. If you want to give us some feedback, you know what to do. The Survey Monkey on the link in our Instagram. And if we're doing a good job, hop on iTunes, share what you're thinking.
Yeah, definitely reviews on iTunes are helpful. I think that
they're fun to read.
That I mean, rating our podcast, it keeps us relevant and helps people find us and kind of spreads the word, and which is the goal for us.
Exactly. With that being said, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. Imagine working with a single material that can be provided to you in virtually any profile for exterior trim, molding, siding, and millwork. Whether it's
Tell me that we don't have to imagine it anymore.
Well, you're about to find out. Whether it's a
let's hear
standard beveled siding or a thick custom show sill, the folks at Duration can provide that exact detail that works for your application, and it won't take longer either. Even completely custom profiles are produced in just 2 weeks. What's more, you'll have a finished product that performs like no other. And to learn more about it, Duration Polyash Products, please visit their all-new website at durationmillwork.com. I don't know if you guys follow them on Instagram, but they post some pretty cool stuff where I think people are sending like, hey, this is my existing profile.
Yeah.
And then they put it side by side, and man, they glue up some massive pieces.
It's pretty crazy.
I called my supply.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I called my supply the other day thinking that they sold 4x8 sheets because Duration had them. No,
Yeah.
they don't make that. I'm like, no, they definitely do. I've seen this guy cut them. Either that or he's gluing up massive pieces.
Yeah, the one thing I had done, he's like, yo, just get a hold of me next time. We'll glue that up, because I had like a 16 or 18 inch deep piece, and I like put a rabbit in it and stepped it. He's like, no, we could glue that together as one piece. I was like, all right.
It's super smart. It's cool. It's cool to see that stuff go together.
Dude, could you imagine handling a 4x8 sheet of that though?
No.
Yeah, with like 10 people.
Be like, do not break that. That's a very expensive 4x8 sheet.
Snap. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.